Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy Leftward Sloping Penis, and on December 10th, 2020, Cyberpunk 2077 was released, and I was absolutely hyped. It was one of the only games that I've ever pre-ordered because it was made by the people that made The Witcher 3, so like, it had to be good, you know? I even still have the little postcards and extra stuff that came with the pre-order copy. Unfortunately, I got it for the base model PS4, which means that I played it for about an hour, the game crashed twice, and then I never touched it again. Until now, except this time I got it on PC, and I plan to do every single quest and get every single achievement in the game so I can 100% complete it and see if Cyberpunk 2077 is worth playing in 2025. So I start the game on hard difficulty because mama ain't raised no bitch. I make my character and give myself an absolutely massive schlong that's obviously some type of cybercock technology or something because there's just no way one this big could exist in real life. Anyway, other than the unrealistic size of the genitalia, the character customization is pretty good. It's not amazing or anything, but to my surprise, they are still adding more stuff to this day, because with one of the most recent updates, they added some more customizations with the eyes and stuff like that. Then you get to start your character build, and there's 5 different trees that you can go into. I put most of my points into the cool skill tree because I am a slut for snipers and revolvers. All the trees usually focus on a few different weapon types, like the cool tree focuses on sniper rifles, revolvers, and precision rifles, but with the reflex tree, you could focus on assault rifles, SMGs, and blades, including the ones that you shove into your skin. Then you get to choose your life path, and I chose the street kid because I was raised on them streets.
I ran the streets since I was young.
Streets killed me.
So I start out in this bar with a busted up nose. The bartender tells me that he owes a man named Kirk some money and he wants me to go try to take care of it. So I go take a seat with Kirk next to this husky fella who's eating a very unappetizing, jagged looking burger. I talk to Kirk and he tells me that if I want to pay off the debt, I need to steal a fancy schmancy Rayfield car for him, and he gives me a skeleton key to break into it. On the way out, I run into my old friend Padre, who gives me a ride, and we reveal that we just came back to Night City from our failed trip to Atlanta. Eventually some goons roll up on us who tell Padre to get his guys off the street, and we tell him to piss off. Padre gives me his number for some future work, and we head out to go steal the car. And surprisingly, the key works, despite this car not being a skeleton. Until it doesn't. And then the feds show up while I'm also being carjacked, while carjacking in some type of jackception type beat. The car owner shows up but says he's too rich to care about this, and the cops beat the shit out of me and let us go. After that, me and carjacker number 2, whose name is Jackie ironically enough, have some conversation about Kirk and become immediate best friends. Then we see a compilation of us committing various crimes together, getting into all types of shenanigans, and just being little rascals in general. I do wish we could actually play through that stuff because it looked really fun. But eventually we get to participate in some of that tomfoolery in this mission where we're looking to rescue some lady in this building. We get a call from our girl T-Bug, who tells us that our target might be dead already, but we get to it anyway. Doesn't take too long to get into our first firefight, where I blow a few people's heads, schmoove off their shoulders, and make our way to our naked target and jack in, which I think is technically necrophilia, but I try not to think about it too much. I carry her outside where we get to see the game's impressive jiggle physics, and then the trauma team takes her away. Jackie asks to borrow my car to take his girlfriend Misty on a date, and I call Wakako to tell her that the job is done, and she tells me that they're closing the district, so we need to move fast. And unlike GTA, sometimes people will actually drive you to places in this game. How about that? Damn, this game looks good. I don't get to appreciate the visuals for too long because we get rolled up on by another van and have to fight them off real quick. Jackie rizzes up the cop to convince her to let us through, and we make it back to my apartment where we can watch TV, shower, look at your face, use the internet, look at my gun stash, change clothes, and sleep for an XP bonus. Absolute horrid TV placement, by the way. Also, T-Bug gives me a mission called The Gift, but I'll do that later. And after getting all snug as a bug in a rug, I wake up with a cybernetic version of a hangover and head out to the doctor's with Jackie. I get another call from Regina Jones, who also has some work for me, but I will also do that later. On the way to the doctor, this man stops me to fight some robot real quick, which starts the Beat the Brat quest line, which will have us fighting people all across the city, but we will also get to that later. I complete the gun quest real quick by just getting a gun from the dealer. No paperwork required. I meet up with Jackie, who tells me that he has a new job lined up with somebody named Dexter Deshawn. Sweet name, not gonna lie. He is gracefully described as the badass black Jesus of the afterlife. Sweet description. description, not gonna lie. Eventually we make it to the Ripper doc named Victor so he can cure my cyber herpes real quick. We also get some upgrades and he fronts us $21,000, or eddies as they're called in this game, which gives us the paid in full quest where we just have to pay him back whenever we get the money. I head out to go meet up with Dex, and Regina calls me to give me the Cyberpsychos missions where we have to kill many Cyberpsychos for her. But eventually we meet up with Dex, who does live up to his description, and he tells me that there's some biochip that he wants me to steal from Arasaka. But we need to do two things before we can pull off this heist. First, we need to get some high-tech military gear from a group named Maelstrom, because apparently Dex did already buy it from this group, but it was from a man named Brick, who is no longer the leader, so he doesn't know if they're going to honor their agreement or not. And second, I need to meet up with one of his clients named Evelyn Parker, who will help us get some security information so we can steal the chip easier. I decided to do the Evelyn Parker mission first. So I head over to this cyber strip club to meet up with her, and I do my best to avoid the holographic titties to my left so I don't have to censor them. She tells me that the chip I'm stealing is some type of personality transfer device, but she just wants the data on it. And apparently Saburo Arasaka's son has already stolen the chip, and since Evelyn is having premarital sex with him, yuck, she was able to record his apartment and we can use her brain dance to find where it is. She introduces us to Judy and we start the brain dance where we first see the legendary Adam Smasher. Smasher? I hardly know her. Oh. After that we have to scan around the apartment for the security, listening to the conversations, and eventually finding the spot where the chip is. I did not enjoy the brain dance, by the way. It's a pretty interesting concept, but it's kind of boring because there's no actual challenge or detective work or anything, since everything that's worth scanning is already highlighted at the top for you. So I just hope that I don't have to do this too many more times in the game. After that, Evelyn makes a proposition to not split the money with Dex, but I'm kind of role-playing as a mercenary who just does the job that I'm paid to do without questions, so I'm not going to betray Dex. After that, I call up Meredith Stout for the second part of the setup, so I meet up with her and she immediately bashes my fucking skull in. Apparently they have a mole in their midst and they thought that I was the mole, but I agreed to find who it really is and tell her for her help. And she gives me a hacked shard to pay the Maelstrom guys with. I also found out that I could hack the shard and make a duplicate of it for whatever reason. So I meet up with those guys and do some drugs real quick and give them the chip. Soon after that, the building starts exploding all over the place and now I have to fight my way out. I checked to see if I still had that duplicate shard, which I did, and upon hacking into it, you can get 10,000 V-Bucks, so now I can afford that new Sabrina Carpenter skin. Hell yeah. Also on the way out, I noticed a man in a cell, which you have to deactivate the bomb and find a code on this laptop to free him, and it turns out to be Brick, which is the guy that Dex originally paid for the flathead robot, so he's still alive, I guess. Anyway, we continue fighting our way through the building until we get to our first boss fight with this laser shooting maniac. He has a weak spot on his back that does a ton of damage if you blow it up, and it wasn't too bad because I kind of just got him stuck behind this big stack of boxes to protect me from his giant ass lasers. I also panicked at one point and accidentally opened the photo editor and got a neat looking shot of him shooting a laser at my head. After we make it out to Meredith, she thanks us and we call up Dex to tell him what happened, and we're all set to do the heist. But before I do that, I finished the quest that I got from T-Bug, which is just getting a free ping hack, and then we started the heist. So I meet up with Jackie and we drink a couple Johnny Silverhands and talk about how we're about to be absolute legends and one of us is totally not going to die a tragic death here very soon. We meet up with Dex to go over the plan and head out. That's also when we're introduced to the talking taxi service named Delamain, who foreshadows one of our deaths very soon.
Excelsior, what else is included?
Comprehensive health coverage, including the handling and disposal of a client's remains should death occur on board.
Damn, shit got dark pretty quick.
Who knows who it could be. Then we arrive to the hotel and head up to our room. Now you just gotta lead the flathead through the building, wait a few hours, and then head into Yorinobu's room to get the chip. You could also find this iguana here who has an egg behind it that you could actually pick up and hatch later on in your apartment. Anyway, we grabbed the chip, but unfortunately, Yorinobu, Adam Smasher, a man named Takamura, and the Emperor Saburo Arasaka himself walk into the room. That kind of sounded like I was setting up a joke or something. Yorinobu, Arasaka, and Adam Smasher all walk into a bar. You hide for a minute until shockingly Yorinobu kills his own father right in front of us and puts the hotel on lockdown and lies to everybody saying that his father was poisoned. We try to escape outside until some ship sees us and then we crash through the glass onto another level. Jackie gets hurt and the chip gets all busted up. So we call Evelyn and she tells us that one of us has to slot the chip in our head to save it and Jackie takes the plunge. Now we just have to sneak our way through the building, or sneak as long as I can until I get caught and pull out the Elmer fuck FUD and just start blasting fools. Eventually we get back to the garage and the goat himself, Delamain, comes back to pick us up. Adam Smasher comes back to try to smash our balls and we gotta shoot some drones to escape. Unfortunately, Jackie finally succumbs to his wounds and puts the chip into our head.
Don't do it for me.
Wow, I can't believe it's raining in my house right now. I didn't even know that was possible. Obviously, I was exaggerating a bit, but I did feel sad when Jackie died, but I feel like it could have hit a lot harder if you actually spent more time with the guy. Like, I know I'm summarizing everything, but you really didn't miss too much stuff when it comes to Jackie. I mentioned earlier how I wish you could have actually done all that stuff that you saw in the cutscenes with him, not only because it looked fun, but it really would have made his death a lot better in my opinion, because you really don't spend too much time with him. He's only alive for maybe a couple hours, and you do like one mission with him before the heist. Anyway, now you have to decide where to send his body, either to Victor or to his family, and I chose his family, which does have surprising consequences way down the line at like the very end of the game actually. After that, we go meet Dex and tell him what happened and make a plan to call Evelyn to get us out of the city. But before that could happen, Dex betrays us and shoots us in the head, and we finally get the Cyberpunk logo because this is where the real game begins. Suddenly, we wake up in a random room, but not as V, but as Keanu Reeves. And we go play some sick licks in front of the crowd and hop into this helicopter and start blasting fools. After that, we see that our man has a bag full of bomb and we are obviously up to no good. We start murdering more people, plant the bomb in the elevator, talk to our friend Rogue, and hack into their mainframe. Unfortunately, while escaping, we get attacked by our old friend Adam Smasher, looking a lot less robotic than he does in the future. He shoots me real good, and then we get interrogated by some meanie heads, and then the Emperor himself shows up, pre-murdered. Then they use something called Soul Killer on me, and I wake up again. Kind of. We follow Johnny Silverhand around in my head, and then we wake up for real in a pile of garbage. Dex finds me crawling around and then gets popped in the head by Takamura, which is the guy we saw earlier while we were stealing the chip. He kidnaps me in his car, and we get attacked by a bunch of goons, and then we have to fight them off until he wrecks. We're both pretty banged up at this point, so I gotta call Delamain to take us to Victor before I bleed out of every single hole in my body. He heals me up in a jiff, and I tell him about my adventures as Johnny Silverhand, and it turns out that Johnny's personality was inside of that chip that is now stuck in my head. Victor then tells me that I only have a few weeks left to live because Johnny's personality is taking over mine, and eventually all of me will just be gone and replaced by Johnny. Misty takes me home and gives me some drugs to help with the chip and the bullet that was in my head, and we talk about Jackie, and then I get all snug as a bug in a rug. Then our boy Johnny shows up again, and we do that cliche mirror thing when somebody sees their twin in a movie, and we have a fun little schizophrenic time alone in our apartment. Eventually I wake up and Takamura tells me to come meet up with him, and on the way there I got a quest while I ran past these police who are yelling at some dude named Barry to come out, who apparently used to work for them at some point, but I'm gonna put a pin in that for now. So I meet up with Takamura, and he asked me where to find Evelyn Parker so he can get some proof about what happened to Saburo. Neither of us know where she is, but I decided to go track her and the person who invented the chip named Anderson Hellman. After he leaves, Johnny shows up and says that he doesn't want me dead anymore and that we should try to get help from Rogue, which is his friend from that flashback we saw earlier. And since I am so desperate to solve this problem before I die, I'm gonna go fuck off and do anything other than that for the next few weeks. I go to get my car back from the garage, and surprisingly, Delamain fucking smashes me and then drives off and then invites me to come to his headquarters for compensation since he just destroyed my one and only car. On the way, I see my first tarot card, which is one of the collectibles in the game, and starts a quest called Collect Them All. So I steal some guy's car, and then Wakako and Padre both call me to give me jobs, which we will put a pin in that for now so I can visit Delamain real quick. He apologizes and gives me about 5,000 goober dollars for destroying my car, which finishes that quest, but he gives me a new one and asks me to come to his office. He tells me that he believes there's a virus controlling the car service right now, which is why one of them smashed up my baby, and he wants me to go recover all the missing vehicles. Wells. I am also gonna put a pin in this for now because I still need a car. So I call up Mama Wells, which is Jackie's mother in case you didn't know, and she tells me that she has a funeral planned for him, so I need to head over there. She mentions that she wants to lay something sentimental by his casket, and she gives me a key to his garage to go to try to find something. Sadly, we find Misty there waiting for Jackie to come home, even though she knows that he never will. We search around his garage and his room to find something, and I end up choosing this rare bottle of tequila that Jackie loved that is 1 out of 100 ever made. We go back to the bar, and Jackie and his mom are sharing memories about him. V shares the story of the first time we met, and in the end, she gives me the key to Jackie's bike, so now we are mobile once again, baby. Next, I decide to finish that paid in full quest by paying back Vic that $21,000 I owe him because I ain't no bum. And outside of Vic's place, there's a man preaching all kinds of conspiracy stuff, and he'll ask you for a donation, which I gladly give him. That completes that quest, so next I decided to do the next part for the Beat on the Brat quest line, and on the way, Takamura calls me to tell me that he might have a solution for our problem and to meet up with somebody to figure it out. But we'll put a pin in that for now because I'm about to beat the absolute piss out of somebody real quick. Actually, two somebodies, because they're twins. Kind of. They're actually just the same person that share a brain link and get very offended if you call them twins. But I beat them up pretty easily and collect my winnings. For the next quest, I find some poor man getting beaten by the police who apparently put one of their friends into a coma. I convince them to let me finish the job instead, and at the same time, Kirk from the beginning of the game calls me for a job, but we'll put a pin in that as well. I wake the guy up, and he tells me that he has apparently been giving girls spiked brain dances, which is like a form of cyber sexual assault, I assume, and I force him to give me all his money, and that's that. After that, in a different alleyway, I find a dead guy with an iconic gun named Skippy that actually talks to me.
Alright, so what can you do? Besides talk my ear off.
Primary feature, automated targeting. In case of critical threat to user, autonomous shooting capabilities. Please choose one of 2 operating modes. First mode, puppy-loving pacifist. I will aim at the enemy's lower extremities. Second mode, stone cold killer. I will aim exclusively at the head.
Stone Cold Killer. My kind of gun.
Adjusting settings. Bum bum be dum bum bum be dum bum.
Ugh.
And fun fact, this gun right here is actually what inspired that Rick and Morty High on Life game with the talking gun. And another fun fact, I made that up. Anyway, we have to get at least 50 kills with this gun before we can continue the quest, so I'll keep that thing on me until that happens. On the way to the next quest, my buddy calls me to come by for a shooting competition, so we'll also do that later. But for now, I do a job called Losing My Religion, where I find a monk with some modifications, which is against their religion. But apparently it was forced on them by some ne'er-do-wells. His brother needs help before he gets modified as well, so I head over there to see what I can do. I immediately murder everybody and set the monk free because that's what happens when you tango with the best. And I get a cool iconic SMG that shoots electric bullets. And since I was in the area, I decided to get one of Delamain's cars, and all you have to do is just follow it for a while until it wrecks, and then he'll come pick it up. And while I was doing that, I passed another quest called I'm in love with my car, so I decided to do that as well. All you have to do for this one is find the keys to the car, and now it is all yours. But this car is a little special because for one, it looks pretty cool, and 2, it's a weaponized vehicle, which means that it has guns on the front, which makes it even cooler. And after that, I decided to do the small man big mouth quest that I just got from Kirk a little bit ago. But while I was doing that, I saw some troublemakers in the bar harassing this dude and make them leave by telling them that Mama Wells will shoot them in the fucking face with a shotgun. Pepe the bartender thanks me with a free drink and also tells me that he thinks his wife is cheating on him because their son doesn't look anything like him and gives me a job to go find out if she is or not. So we head over to her place of business and scan everybody until we can find her, while Johnny does a sarcastic noir-style detective quote every once in a while.
Not her, I thought. No pink jacket, no guilt in her eyes.
Christ, this is even worse than your songs.
They say all dames are the same, but this one, she was different.
You having fun there?
It was her, the lady in pink, breaker of hearts, framed by a halo of cigarette smoke. I followed her.
Dreaming of the day the narrator put a fucking plug in it.
The woman looked around. Something weighed on her. Maybe it was my gaze.
Keep this up, I'm a fucking puke. Narrate that.
The woman passes a bum, gives him a wide berth, doesn't want her clothes dirty. Her conscience is already dirty enough.
Seriously, what did I ever do to you?
The dame disappeared into the guts of a building ready to collapse. The air hung heavy with smog and betrayal.
Ugh, Maybe it's a good thing I'm dying.
Eventually, I make it to her destination after following her, and it turns out that she is not cheating on him, but she's actually visiting a shady Ripper doc who has to work in this dump because he accidentally killed somebody before. And she's been getting a bunch of plastic surgery to look different, and that's why Pepe's son doesn't look anything like them, because she doesn't really look like herself. So I call up Pepe to tell him what's going on, and you have the option to not tell him, but I got paid to find out what's going on, so I did. Thus, completing the quest, and now back to Kirk. So I head back to the bar, and Johnny surprisingly warns me about Kirk before I meet up with him, and that man is still eating a burger to this day.
To this day!
Kirk tells me about a van with some merch in it, specifically experimental Militech implants, and obviously he wants me to go with him to acquire the goods. So we arrive and he tells me where the van is. I kill all the guards and check the van, which is in fact not full of experimental Militech implants and is actually full of counterfeit Samurai merch. Samurai is Johnny Silverhand's band, by the way. And now Kirk is dead, and the people who killed him apparently set him up because they figured he was a little bitch boy and told him about some fake merch to see if he would try to steal it, and he did. He tells me that he won't kill me if I say that I'm a little bitch boy, which is really funny, but I decided to shoot him in the face instead, thus finishing Kirk's quest. There was another quest right next to me called Over the Edge with a strange green marking and a brain dance with a sick-ass animation of a cyberpsycho just going to town on a bunch of police and then dying. And V wakes up with quite the reaction, as anyone would.
What in the fuck?
Then we get a text from El Captain to tell me what we found, and he tells me a bit about the guy we just saw and how he was a big old legend while V was gone in Atlanta. He says that he'll do some digging about him and let us know what he finds. So while we wait, I do the next quest called Happy Together that we got a while back ago from those cops at my apartment building. They tell me that their coworker Barry's best friend died, and they want me to talk to him to try to make him feel better. So I do just that, and he tells me about his dead friend Andrew a little bit and how Mendez, the guy cop that we talked to, is disregarding his feelings, which is a big no-no. He also tells me about his special memento, and that gives you the option to go try to find it before you talk to the cops. But first, more importantly, I finally set my iguana egg down. Then Meredith Stout from that mission way earlier in the game messages me, and I riz her up a little bit, and she immediately tells me to come meet her at her hotel. Holy shit, that was easy. On the way to the memorial site, I run into one of Delamain's cars, so I decided to do that real quick, where you just have to talk to his depressed car ass and then drive him back to the garage without going too fast or hitting anything, because he'll stop the car and cry like a little biatch.
Enough. I need a moment to calm down.
Alright.
Riveting gameplay. So I drop the car off and head back to my original destination to find the thing. And it turns out that Andrew was not a person, but a goddamn turtle. I mean, I know somebody that cried when their pet worm died, so you know. Anyway, I go tell the cops what's going on, and they talk to Barry, completing the Happy Together quest. I also read that if you don't find out about the turtle, that Barry will actually kill himself, so yeah. And in an attempt to get away from all that depression, I decided to go meet up with Meredith to give her the wienering of a lifetime. I'm not somebody that's usually into dominant women, but I'm often pegged as one. Oh hey look, an iconic dildo weapon. Nice. Anyway, that completes the Venus and Furs quest, so I decided to do the Shoot to Thrill quest, which is the one that we got from our friend about the shooting range a while back ago. For this one, all you have to do is win a shooting competition with a pistol and get an iconic pistol if you get first place. Also, at first I thought it was only 1 point per target, but you could actually get a point every time you hit the target, so having this pistol that shoots 2 bullets at once made it much easier. So I get the pistol and complete the quest, and then get a message about that guy from the brain dance we just watched. He doesn't tell me much, but he does tell me that he doxed me instead and says that me and David got more in common than you might reckon. Then he tells me that he left something nice for me with El Captain, which is David's jacket. And if you don't know, this entire quest is a reference to the Edge Runner Cyberpunk anime, and this is the jacket worn by the main character. The next quest is called Night Moves, which has me finding a very distressed man holding onto his crotch because apparently he got some type of cock mod cybernetic that didn't go very well. So we have to take him to a Ripper dock real quick without wrecking too much, or his dick will fall off or something and you fail the mission. So I drop him off and he says that he will pay you later. While we wait for that, I start the I Can See Clearly quest by talking to this vending machine. He gives me a free coffee and then asks me to move this dumpster in front of him so he could see out into the beautiful world. So I do just that, and he gives me another coffee as a reward, and that's the end of that. If you go back, you can find him talking to a woman named Theo, who he says is his bestest friend ever. And if you go back to him again, you'll find somebody spray painting him, and if you convince them to leave, Brandon will say that we are bestest friends friends forever, so fuck Theo, I guess. And he gives you a Costco membership card so you can get a discount on coffee. But then he gets all creepy on me.
Don't worry, you deserve it. You're one tough cookie, and yet so nice.
Not to everyone.
I couldn't be mean even if I wanted to. Especially to you. Can't speak ill of the dead, right?
Wait, what?
You're not supposed to be here, and yet here you are. Like a glitch in the system. Or a demon coded by a brilliant netrunner. You know what demons are capable of, right, V?
And if you go back again, Brandon is gone, but Theo is here and tells me that they just came and took him and asked me to bring him back. So I head over to the location, and on the way, Delamain tells me about another vehicle in the area, so I find it, and it turns out to be the same one who hit me earlier because he says the exact same thing he did when he hit me.
Beep, beep, motherfucker!
And you just need to damage the car enough for him to stop, and Delamain will bring him back to the garage. After that, I head to Brandon's location and bribe this dude into letting me go talk to him, and apparently he's getting updated to make him sound less like a real person because he has reportedly been creeping customers out, including me. He tells me to tell Theo goodbye for him, and then tells me his final joke.
I'll tell you my last joke in the voice of a dying hero. What else can you do but laugh in the face of death? Ha! So, how about it?
You know what? Go for it. I could learn to laugh like that too.
Don't get all mushy on me now, V. You have to keep living. Tell Theo that she's stronger than she thinks.
Don't worry, Brendan. I'll tell her.
Hey, V, where was Johnny Silverhand when the bomb at Arasaka Tower went off?
I don't know where.
All over the place. Literally. Software update installed successfully.
After that, I go tell Theo what happened and what he said, and she reacts very appropriately.
Fuck!
Then the flaming crotch guy gives me a call to pay me, and then I find this gentleman at the park who also happens to be a monk, and I wonder if he knows that other monk and his brother we helped earlier. Is it offensive to think that all monks know each other? Anyway, he says a lot of mumbo jumbo and gives me a meditative brain dance to, quote, liberate my consciousness. And the brain dance is just you sitting in the forest while he tells me a lot of meditative sounding stuff. I come back to reality with surprisingly none of my stuff stolen and my kidneys still firmly in my body, and that's the end of the imagining quest. But you could actually find him again in a different location for the mission Stairway to Heaven, where he once again gives you another brain dance for meditation reasons, except this time you're in front of a waterfall. And just like last time, he disappears without a trace and you still have all your stuff with your liver still intact. And also just like last time, you can find him once again in another location, and he mentioned the sound of one hand clapping, which I know is supposed to be like some mystical metaphor or something, but I actually can clap with one hand. And I know you can't actually see me, but that was not me using two hands or jerking it in front of the microphone. That was me one hand clapping. Anyway, he gives you yet another brain dance, except this time you're in a forest with a fire in front of you. And once again, we wake up with our stuff and penis still attached and go find him one last time. This time he lets me ask one question, but I stupidly tried to ask two and he doesn't answer either one. And for the last time, we put on a brain dance, but this time instead of being in a forest, I'm in some type of mountain, and he once again just says a lot of deep sounding meditation stuff. When I wake up, he's gone, but this time Johnny is sitting here with me, and he did leave me something which you could use as decoration in your apartment. Well, that was fun. Anyway, the next mission is called Ezekiel Saw the Wheel, where you're sitting in this diner trying to enjoy your nice drink until these hooligans come in and try to rob it. Luckily, instead of having to pay them off, I could use my street kid Riz to scare them off. And your reward is getting to clear out his entire inventory for free, but it's just a bunch of food items. In the next mission called Space Odyssey, I find some homeless people trying to break into this case, but they don't know what's in it because they stole it, and I once again use my street kid Riz to just convince them to give it to me. I'm able to hack into it and find some messages about some Militech stuff and how somebody got banned for sending some unsolicited dick pics. God forbid a guy have some hobbies. After that, I launch something, and then have to go intercept whatever it is when it lands. Once I arrive, I have to kill a bunch of guards and then finally get to see what's in the package. And it turns out to be a rare painting from space worth about 8,000 COD points. Next, I decided to continue the Beat on the Brat quest line and go fight some more people real quick. My next opponent being a man named Buck, who has a metal arm and a very cool sniper rifle that I want very badly. Sadly, I don't have enough points to make a bet for it, but after you beat him, if you just tell him that he has a small wiener, you can provoke him to attack you and kill him and just take the sniper that way, which is exactly what I did. After that, I did the next fight with this man who has a very angry pregnant wife, and he puts his car up as a bet, so she's about to be even angrier when I beat the absolute shit out of him and take his car, which is exactly what I did. The next quest is actually a hidden one called the Highwayman, where we have to find this garage and open it and find a bike inside. After that, you read this message and it will talk about somebody named James and Josie, and you'll see a picture of them. Now you have to find James and find out what happened to Josie. So you look at the picture and hopefully recognize the location so you can go find out where James is, or use Google, and then you show up and show him the picture. After that, he tells me that the Tiger Claws gang had some beef with her and he wanted her to skip town, but she didn't listen. So they smashed her ride, and in return, she stole one from the Tiger Claws boss. James says that he doesn't know what happened to her after that, but he assumes that she's dead. He gives me some leads to try to find her, and you head to the place where he mentions to find a trail of blood that unfortunately leads to her dead body, and a note that she was trying to write talking about how the Tiger Claws were coming after her and how she left the bike somewhere that they will never find, and that her boyfriend James is actually the one that lured her into the trap. So we go confront him, and he doesn't deny it, but basically says that they were going to kill him if he didn't give her up. Now we have to go find that stolen bike, and she says that the code to the door is the day that they met, which I'm going to take a wild, out of the park guess and assume that the date written on this bench that James is sitting on with the initials J plus J in front of a giant heart painted on it is probably the code. So you go find the garage, enter the code, and you get a pretty cool free motorcycle. Next mission is called Big in Japan, where we find this guy who wants me to go find a marked fridge for him with the words "no future" on it and tells me to call him when I find it. So I head over to the location and find the fridge, but it turns out there is a man in the fridge who is barely alive. And the guy tells me to take his body to the trunk of the car that he sent, but the only problem is that there's a bunch of Tiger Claws everywhere looking for him, so we start cyberpunking all over the place and then take him to the car. And what's really surprising is after all this time, I still haven't gotten the 50 kills with the Skippy gun, because like almost none of the quests that I've done have involved very much combat at all. Anyway, I drop him off and he tells me that he's a brain surgeon from Japan that the Tiger Claws used, but the boss died while he was operating on him, so they wanted to kill him. But the twist is that he actually did kill the Tiger Claws boss on purpose. But he gives me an iconic sword, and that's the end of the quest. Alright, I think it's time to do some gigs before I get back to the main story, and if you don't know, gigs are just like little shorter side missions that usually involve a fixer calling you to tell you about a job and sending you a text with some more details. I would say that these sit somewhere in between the Radiant quest from a Bethesda game and a normal side quest in this game. They're not infinite or anything, and they do have a story to them, but rarely do you ever talk to an NPC or anything during these, and most of the time it just involves you going to a location, killing a bunch of enemies, or stealing some data or something. So I'm not going to go over all of these because there's like 50 of them, but I will do them all, and I'll show you the first few just to give you an example what gigs are like. And the first one from Regina Jones just tells me that I need to break into this place and steal a van, and if I want to know more, to look at her message. So I do just that, and apparently it is full of leather combat jackets, which seems weird until you read more and find out that they're actually just importing the leather jackets so they can sell the leather to Ripper Docs for the Tiger Claws implants. So you go to the location, kill all the Tiger Claws, take the van to the lockup area, kill some more people, and drop it off. The next gig for Regina is called the Hippocratic Oath, where some Maelstrom guys are keeping a Ripper Dog hostage and forcing her to do some work, so we have to go rescue her. So we go to the building, kill a bunch of dudes, and find her performing surgery, and you could either convince her to leave or help her finish the surgery, which I do, and then escort her to the car. The next one is called Rite of Passage, where she wants me to get a video of a Maelstrom initiation ceremony. So you go in, blast some dudes in the head, get the data, and finish the quest. So yeah, that's about what most of these are like. They're not bad or anything, and I did do them all and enjoyed most of them, especially because this is a great way to make some extra money and get some more gear. Some of them do have a little more depth than the others, so I might go over those ones when they pop up, but I do like how it does let you roleplay as the mercenary that you're supposed to be in this game and just do these one-off jobs that don't have some convoluted or crazy story to them. But after that, Skippy tells me that I finally reached at least 50 kills and switches to puppy-loving pacifist mode permanently, which just means that he will only go for limb shots from now on. But it doesn't matter because I don't have to use him anymore, and I just have to wait a few days until he gives me the next step, step for the machine gun quest. And while I wait for that, I went to go get some upgrades and ran into our conspiracy theory friend from earlier, who I have donated to a few times at this point. Except this time, he has gathered a bit of an audience, and they don't like what he's saying about nomads, so they attack him and I kill them all to death, because that's what happens when you tango with the best. I talked to him afterwards, and he says that the elites are having some kind of meeting tonight, and he wants me to help him save the planet with him, which gives us the quest called the Prophet's Song. So I head to the factory, and Johnny is sitting here to make fun of me for expecting Mark Zuckerberg to show up in his lizard form or something.
The time has come for a close encounter of the third kind. A small step for V, but a giant leap for humankind. Who are you betting on showing up? The reptilians or techno-necromancers?
So we wait around for a bit for something to happen, and eventually somebody does actually show up. But it's just Maelstrom. But when I listened to their conversation, they were actually saying a lot of weird conspiracy stuff until the game just tells me to steal their chip.
What says the Wolf Father to the Moon Mother as she descends to Earth?
I have protected the realm of man and shadow, but today they are protected by our children, whose name is patricide.
In the age of his failure, he became lost in the forest.
Lilith has concealed the 10th circle from the ancestors' eyes.
Carpe noctem lamia.
Decet diem execrari.
So I kill everybody, grab the chip, and get a note that says destroy after reading that says a lot of weird mumbo jumbo, but if you take the first letter of each word, it says Project Oracle Command Execute Plans. I go back to give Gary the chip, but now he's gone, and the new lady here says that he was kidnapped and taken to the mothership. I show her the chip, and she says,
Jesus Christ, hide that quick! Nobody can know, got it?
Why? What is it? What's this all about?
Gary knew this would happen! They here to bend us to their will, to make us their puppets.
Whoa, calm down. Who is? The Techno-Necromancers?
And lo, they shall descend upon the earth unseen, the sky shrouded in darkness. That's what he said. Night's coming, the eternal night.
And so ends the epic saga of discovering secrets of paranormal beings. What's this story taught us?
So yeah, I guess we'll never know what's actually going on, but it does seem like there is a real conspiracy out there. Anyway, after making a bunch of money from some more gigs, I decided to spend some of my hard-earned cash on one of my favorite cars in the game, being this samurai-style Porsche that also happens to come with a side quest of its own called Shape of the Pony, because apparently the seller of the car just up and disappeared, so we gotta track it down. When we arrive to the car's last known location, we find a dead man who looks suspiciously like Johnny, and upon reading his notes, we find out that his name is Johnny Silverman, and he unfortunately found a new band to like, so he is so over Johnny Silverhand. We also get the location of where the car is, so we head over there, pop a few heads, and get the car. Now I finally decided to get back to the main story, so I head over to the Afterlife bar and meet up with Rogue, which is the girl that Johnny was friends with before he was inside my brain. Also, I got to name a drink after Jackie real quick. Aw. We talked to Rogue about helping us find Hellman, who is the inventor of the chip in my head, and we have to pay her a cool 15,000 doll hairs to get her to help. She gives me some intel about some convoy routes coming in, and she thinks that one of them contains Hellman. But unfortunately, we won't be able to jack the transport without the police being on our ass. So instead, we need to stop the truck in a very specific spot where we're gonna need the help of a native, which is the woman I'm in love with. The woman I'm in love with, Panam Palmer. So I call her up to help her out so that she'll help me out. She needs me to help her get her car back from somebody named Nash, who apparently stole it from her. So we head back to her camp to try to get help from Mitch and Scorpion, who can't come with us but do give us some gear. After that, we go to this abandoned gas station to set up a trap and wait for them to arrive and start murking fools. After we get the car back, she says that she actually wants to kill Nash as well, and you do have the choice whether to do it or not, but I'm a simp, so I decided to do it. We do a little hop skip over to their hideout and start murdering everybody, and we get an iconic weapon called the Widowmaker, which I use to finish the job. After that, you go to the bar and have some drinks and finish the mission. Next, I finally completed the Human Nature quest that I got at the very beginning of the game, where you pretty much just have to wait until Delamain fixes your car, so yeah, we finally have our original car back. And then Skippy finally lets me continue his quest line by telling me he found his original owner, which happens to be Regina Jones. So now he wants me to go return him to her, and if you don't, he'll just keep screaming at you forever and ever. So I take him to Regina real quick, and she's happy to see Skippy, but then immediately resets him to factory resettings and renames him Daisy for some reason. V is quite upset about it though.
You killed him! You killed Skippy!
Come on. It's just an algorithm, not a shred of consciousness.
Not so sure. He had a personality, quirks, mannerisms.
Anyway, that's the end of Skippy and the machine gun quest, for now. Also, while I was reading through some of my shards, I activated the Cold Mirage quest that has some mysterious coordinates that I decided to follow, which led me to the desert and to this dump where I happened to find Dex Deshawn's body with an iconic weapon called Plan B, which actually uses money for bullets, so that's neat. Also, some guy taking a bath in this freezer. Apparently, it's somebody named Bart Mars, who is quite the netrunner and wanted criminal. I find some old cyber deck on his body, and Johnny tells me to bring it to somebody named Nix at the afterlife to see if it's worth anything. So I give it to him and he starts investigating, and apparently there's a virus on this thing because he starts going all cuckoo bananas and I have to jack into his computer to save him, finishing the quest. And right after that, Nix gives me another quest called Spellbound because somebody is selling a book of spells and Nix wants me to buy it and says he'll reimburse me tenfold. So I head to the meeting, pay for the location of the book, grab it, and get the option to decrypt it, which I do. And it says that we are all mirrors. I think. I don't know, I can't read. Then you can bring the book back to Nix, and if you have a high enough intelligence stat, you can make him give you even more money for it since the book is very valuable, finishing the quest. Now we can get back to the main missions and meet up with Panam where we discuss the plan and basically decide that we're going to hit the truck carrying Hellman with an EMP. After blasting the AV, Mitch and Scorpion head out to help them, not knowing that it was us, and the EMP is affecting the radio, so we can't tell them. So I make it to the spot, and as long as you clear the wreckage and kill everybody here, you can unlock another side quest called Fly Away. So I snipe all the guards and disable the turret and rescue Mitch, but unfortunately, Scorpion didn't make it. And even worse, they took Hellman and Scorpion in Mitch's car and escaped. So now we have to follow their tracks until we make it to this gas station and storm the castle. After we splatter everybody's brains all over the place, we head upstairs, find Hellman, and call Takamura. Then the leader of Panam's tribe shows up, and there is clearly some tension between these two.
When you're an Aldecaldo, you are always responsible for yourself and your people. The circumstances change nothing. Perhaps Panam should ask herself if she's still an Aldecaldo.
We say our goodbyes and get to keep Scorpion's bike and head to this hotel so we can question Hellman. He tells me that this is an experimental version of the biochip and the old ones were just meant to be able to talk to old personalities, but the new ones were meant to put somebody's personality into a new body, typically a dead or artificial body, which is why it's scrambling my brains all willy-nilly right now because it was never intended to be put into somebody who is alive. He scans the chip and tells me that my brain is basically fried eggs now and I can't function without the chip anymore. Eventually Takamura shows up and gives me the blueprints to the chip so I can try to find somebody else to help me. Then Johnny basically tells me that he wants to finish the job that he started by blowing up Arasaka, and he wants me to find something called Mikoshi, which basically holds the personalities or engrams of the people that Soul Killer killed. And he wants me to meet somebody named Ult Cunningham to help destroy Arasaka. After that, I got a call from Panam saying that the leader of their tribe, Saul, has been kidnapped and she needs my help, so I head over there and she tells me that the Wraiths took him. She also promises me one of the best sniper rifles ever if I help her, which really butters my biscuits, so I am all in now. So we scout out the perimeter and I head on over, blast many fools, and make my way to Saul. After rescuing Saul, he's being a little biznatch about it, and we get attacked by some goons and fend them off until we can make it to this abandoned farm. We turn the power on, get a little cozy with Panam, and wake up to leave, and the game just looks really pretty right here. She gives me a sniper rifle called Overwatch, which has a silencer on it, which makes my boy parts tingle, and then she gives me a little smooch, which makes my boy parts tingle even more. After we say our goodbyes, I got a call from some lady who says her and her husband need my help, and I start a quest called I Fought the Law. So I head over there to meet up with her and her husband Jeff, who turns out to be running for mayor of Night City. When I arrive, they tell me they want to know what happened to the old mayor who has recently died. They think the police might have something to do with it because right before he died, he made a cut to the police budget. So we look through this brain dance and try to find any evidence we can. While doing that, we see a man named River Ward who will become very important very soon. I finish the scan and tell them what I found, and they give me River's number, so I call him and meet up with him at the Chubby Buffaloes. I make my way there, and he's sitting with his partner named Detective Han, who doesn't seem to like me very much. Anyway, we go for for a ride, and he tells me that he arrested some cyberpsycho that says he killed the mayor, but he got, quote, lost on the way to his cell. So we gotta talk to the cyberpsycho's boss, but don't learn much, and then we go talk to River's CI to try to get information about the Red Queens Club. He immediately gets spooked and runs away, but we catch him, and he tells us where the club is. So we head over there, and I sneak my way in and get the True Soldier achievement. Eventually, I find the animal boss and interrogate her into telling me that Holt, the current mayor, actually paid them to smash this place up for some reason. And when I look at the footage, Detective Hahn is here covering up how the old Mayor Ryan actually died, which was apparently from some spiked brain dance because I put it on and got cyber herpes and almost fucking died. So we head back to Chubby Buffalo's to confront Hahn, who doesn't deny what he did, but doesn't really say why he did it either. And River seems to think that Holt killed Ryan to become mayor, but it's not really confirmed. So I head back to Jeff and Elizabeth's place to tell them what I found, and on the way, Johnny tells me not to tell them anything because he thinks this thing runs a lot deeper than I think, and I shouldn't get involved. But I got paid to do a job, and I'm gonna do it. So I tell them what I found, and that finishes the quest for now. After that, I got a call from Panam to come help her with Saul at her camp, so like a simp in heat, I skedaddle on over there. Once I arrive, I find out that Panam wants to steal something called a basilisk from Militech, which is some type of advanced tank. Saul is very against the idea, but we're gonna go behind his back and do it anyway because fuck Saul and his poop gutter. Our first task is to get access to this control tower, and I find some strange file, but unfortunately I cannot read whatever this is, or in general, so I have to find this punch card so we could activate this train that will block the basilisk. After that, Panam tells me that she has a little crush on me, and I do the old Miles Morales, hey, move on her, which works flawlessly.
Hey.
Okay.
We all gather around the campfire to sing the campfire song together while we talk about how Scorpion is the only other person to stand up to Saul. After a little napski, it's time for action, so we ambush the Militech folk, take them all out, and steal the basilisk. After that, we bring it back to camp, and obviously, Saul is not very pleased, and him and Panam have a little screaming match, and that's the end of that quest. It tells me to wait a day so they can put the tank together, but I noticed that Mitch over here had another quest for me, so I decided to go see what he wants. He's pretty sad about Scorpion's death, obviously, so he wants me to go with him for a final goodbye tribute for Scorpion. We head out to some random location, and shockingly, Mitch has Scorpion's body just chilling in the back of his trunk. He tells me that Scorpion wanted him to put his body in a car and launch it off this ramp for it to explode so he can go out with a bang, literally. So we do just that. After that, we talk and drink some more, and he gives me something of Scorpion's, which is, funnily enough, a model of Scorpion from Mortal Kombat. I understood that reference. Now we can go do the Queen of the Highway quest by waiting a day and heading back to the camp. The tank is ready now, so me and Panam hop in, fire her up, and I jack in so I can fly it, right in front of Panam nonetheless. And after doing some driving and some shooting, Panam jacks in as well to link our brains together or something. And this is apparently the most erotic thing you can do because we get down and dirty, and I give her the wienering of a lifetime in a space the size of a closet. But you gotta do what you gotta do. Unfortunately, during our premarital lovemaking session, Militech attacks me, Panam, and the camp at the same time. So we race back to the camp to murder the life out of everybody, and in a surprising twist, Saul is actually not mad and even makes Panam the co-leader of the tribe. So we have a beer together. Panam asked me to stay with her forever at the camp, but I got a lot on my plate right now, which actually makes me black out. After I wake up, I tell her what's going on with me, and she walks me to my car, which finishes that quest and Panam's quest line. There's actually another quest at the camp, so I pull a Yui real quick and head back and hit this sick ramp where I for the first time notice Johnny in the passenger seat because he says, and I quote, "Fuck yeah," when I hit the ramp.
Fuck yeah. Nice.
So somebody named Jake was hit by some shrapnel during one of our mini escapades, and he needs a special implant that Bob wants me to go get from Night City. So I meet up with this unfortunate looking fella who gives me this special kidney, and we immediately get ambushed by the police. Turns out that the unfortunate looking man was in on the plan, and I passed a skill check to get him to tell me that there's a virus on the kidney as well. So I dome him for trying to trick me and bring the kidney back to camp because that's what happens when you tango with the best. I also get a repeating quest called I Really Want to Stay at Your House, which is subtle foreshadowing to the fact that Panam wants to stay at your house. You have to wait until she messages you for it, and like I said, it is repeating, so it'll happen every once in a while throughout the game. So after she messages me for some Netflix and chill, I figured I might as well do this at least once. She shows up at your apartment and you can sit down and talk and cuddle and whatnot. You could also very awkwardly dance together if that's your thing. You could even look outside together and sleep in the bed with her, and that's about it. Once you leave the area, that ends the date and completes the quest. After that, I ran into this fella who's slanging some brain dances on the street, which starts the Sweet Dreams quest. I asked him what's on the brain dance, and he says,
What's on the
real feeling, neuron shredding, high octane, trans-sensational, adrenaline pumping shit, yo. Your mind will blow its load, bruh. You gotta trust me on this.
Yeah, so I pay him a whopping 21,000 shekels, realize it doesn't work on my device, and I'm naked for some reason. So I have to pay him another 5,000 to use his, and to nobody's surprise, he robs me and disappears. So now we have to get our stuff back and escape this building. They also actually mentioned that I've been here before from a previous quest, which is a nice touch. Anyway, you sneak your way through the building, killing a bunch of goons until you get your weapons back, and then you can just go nuts on them. After escaping, we make our way back to the dude who sold us the brain dance, and I let my kinder side show and let him live. Just kidding, I shot him in the fucking face. After that, I got a call from River, who wants to meet up for mysterious reasons. When I arrive, he shows me a video of a man named Anthony getting shot by the police and put into a coma, but unfortunately, this isn't just one of your weird friends showing you some gore video because they think they're funny. He's actually worried about his nephew Randy, who disappeared recently, and he thinks the guy who got shot in the video was involved in it. And since the suspect is in a coma now, he wants to use some experimental tech to review this guy's dreams, apparently. He's also not allowed to be on this case since he's related to the victim, so we have to break in and get the device. So we do just that and search around, and I find some weird spinning baby thing that reminds me of that Amazon delivery walking simulator game. Eventually we find the documents, but somebody else walks in the room right after, and she reveals that River was actually suspended from the police force. She ends up kicking us out, and River tells me that he got suspended because of that case we did with the mayor a while ago. Anyway, we head to Randy's mom's place to continue our investigation there, and we search around for some clues for a while until we find his laptop with a bunch of creepy messages from Anthony. Also, an even creepier cartoon of a man absolutely bitch smacking the shit out of a cow. After searching through his website, we find out that this guy basically preys on troubled kids to take advantage of them. Eventually, we send that video to that lady from the police station so she can try to use it to get access to Anthony's dreams. We wait until the next day and find out that the cartoon did work and Anthony is now dreaming, so we can watch the recording on a brain dance. The first one shows Anthony as a young child getting in trouble by his teacher at school for killing another girl's turtle. Nice. That is 2 quests related to turtle deaths in the game so far. Insert Phineas and Ferb reference that every YouTuber has used at least once here. Then he gets mad because the teacher talked shit about his dad and the teacher turns into a cow. That happened to me a couple times in school too. In the second one, we see the same cow with Anthony getting yelled at and hit by his dad. That also happened to me a couple times too. Then we see the same creepy cartoon from earlier and move on to the next one where Anthony is now an adult in the same place watching the same cartoon and has one of his victims crawling around on the floor with some more victims being treated like cattle. Eventually we pinpoint the location of where the farm is, so me and River head on over there. When you get there, you see the place is surrounded by mines and turrets, so I sneak into the house and find a way to shut them off. Also interestingly, I found a tape about how to manipulate people. Wonder what he could have used that for. Anyway, we make it into the barn and find a bunch of people hooked up to these weird machines, and we do actually find Randy alive and well. Well, not well, but alive at least, along with a few other people. After all that, River thanks me and tells me that he's gonna go kill Anthony, and that concludes the quest. It was a great one, by the way. Probably one of my favorites in the game because it was very disturbing, which also made it pretty memorable. I imagine I'll be having dreams about cows for the next couple weeks at least. After that, I run into another one of Delamain's cars, and this one is one of my favorites because it is obviously a reference to the game Portal.
I have a surprise waiting for you after this next test. Telling you would spoil the surprise, so I'll just give you a hint. I'm going to kill you, and all the cake is gone. Here come the test results. You are a horrible person. I'm serious. That's what it says. A horrible person. We weren't even testing for that.
Eventually she tries to kill you, and after you defend yourself, she says some creepy ass shit and goes back to Delamain. Then I got a call from River to join his family for dinner, which continues his quest line. Once you get there, you help them make dinner by whipping it up in the pot, and River eventually tells you that he did not end up killing Anthony. After that, you play with the kids in some AR shooting game inside of the Cyberpunk game, which there is probably some deep commentary about how we live in a simulation or something there. Then one of the kids says one of the funniest lines in the entire game.
I've been suspended 1 time, retired 2 times, and kicked off the force 3 times.
Next, we eat dinner, and me and River go sit on the top of this water tower to talk about life and whatnot and solidify our friendship. That's the end of River's quest line, so I head to the next quest called Gun Music, where you meet a man named Taco who will stop you because he recognizes you from Panam's camp. He then tells me that some people from the camp are trying to cut a deal with some scavs, but they're taking too long, so he thinks something isn't right, and V decides to go check it out. And after some bad negotiating, they recognize me from a quest from earlier where I murdered some of their people and decided to attack us. Unfortunately for them, that was the last thing that they'll ever do, and Carol is quite upset with me for not being able to resolve the situation peacefully, which I only would have been able to do if I had enough points into my body skill. I get an achievement for maxing out my street cred, and then they run me over on the way out because I think they're still upset with me. After that, Wakako calls me for a job called Sinnerman, where she tells me that somebody named Bill wants me to kill somebody, and I need to talk to him to find out more. So I talk to Bill, and he tells me that he wants to murder a man named Joshua Stevenson because he murdered his wife and was able to get out of jail somehow. Pretty valid crash out, to be honest. So we wait for them to drive by and have to follow them for a bit until they crash, and Bill says that he wants to kill him personally. And now we're in a pretty confusing situation where, like, some publicist is trying to film something about Joshua's life, and even Johnny is confused about the situation and actually encourages me to go with the flow to find out what it's all about. Also, you actually can kill the guy that you were paid to kill, but my employer is holding a bullet in his skull at the moment, so I don't think I'm getting paid for this one anymore. So I go on a ride with him, and he does admit that he murdered lots of people, including that guy's wife, but when he was behind bars, he decided that he wanted to correct the error of his ways. He also tells me that he'll pay me whatever I was going to get paid to kill him if I stay with him for the day, so I agree. Once we arrive to our destination, we head inside, and here you have to make a lot of specific choices if you want to see this quest to its end. When she offers you a drink, you either have to say water or that you're fine. Then you always have to answer Joshua's questions in a way that makes you seem interested in what he's talking about. And this lady tells me that Joshua thinks he's the Messiah and plans to commit suicide while the studio helps by filming his crucifixion and putting it on a brain dance. That's hard. Once you arrive to the restaurant, you need to deny the bribe from the publicist lady to pay you double to just walk away, and surprisingly, even Johnny tells you not to take the bribe. And after sitting down to eat with Joshua, you have to ask to change the subject, and then say, remakes kick the original's ass, and then say, fuck off already. After Joshua leaves, me and Johnny have a nice talk about God's existence, while the scariest motherfucker I have ever seen eats to the left of me. That completes that quest, and while I wait for the next one, River messages me to send me a picture of Randy in the hospital doing very well, which is sweet. After a minute, Rachel calls me to tell me that Joshua is having a breakdown and wants to talk to me. So I head over to the studio to talk to Joshua, where there is a lot of people protesting because they don't like the idea of somebody recording their death for entertainment, apparently. God forbid a guy have some hobbies. Joshua is having doubts, but I tell him that he is a rebel badass, so he'll go through with it. We pray together, and he asks me if I will nail him to the cross myself. You can refuse to do this if you want, but I decided to go ahead and do it because when am I going to get another chance to nail a guy to a cross? This is pretty graphic because you do actually see yourself hitting the nails into his wrist and feet while he screams in pain, which I'm going to assume some of you would be quite sensitive to, so I just won't show it and you can use your imagination, I suppose. But after doing that, you and Johnny wait for him to die and we talk to Rachel to finish the quest. Pretty fucked up one in my opinion, but very memorable as well. A lot of the quests so far have been pretty good, and I like that they're not all just go here, kill this guy, or grab this thing and come back. And I love that in this game, the dialogue feels like real people having actual conversations, unlike a lot of Bethesda games where it just feels like two awkward people reading their lines at separate times. I just feel like the dialogue is much better written and just flows like an actual conversation between two real people. I also really like it that when you're talking to someone, a lot of the times they'll actually be walking around the room where they might sit on a desk or lean up against the wall or make some coffee or something. It really just adds to the immersion when they're not not just standing there completely still, staring into your soul for the entire conversation. Anyway, after that, I decided to do the Stadium Love quest that I randomly got a while back. So I arrived to this rooftop party where they're having some type of shooting competition that I would like to get involved with because I do in fact love shooting things. And even better, you have to drink right before you shoot, which I also love doing. Remember kids, the first rule of gun safety is to have fun. So you gotta go through 4 stations, taking a shot at each one and shooting as many targets as you can in 12 seconds. I was able to get all 46 targets, and you get a patriotic, iconic weapon called Divided We Stand. I actually did a pretty interesting gig after that called Psycho Fan, where surprisingly I don't have to kill anybody, but somebody wants this guitar from a little band called Samurai, if you've ever heard of them, which like I mentioned before is Johnny's band that he played in, so you need to steal the guitar from some guy who is a super fan of him obviously. And I love how much shit Padre talks about the band by saying they are a talentless bunch of angsty, skezzed out kids who thought they were actually making music.
Boom, roasted.
Anyway, I find my way into the apartment from the roof and search around for a little while with Johnny's help of course, who seems a little jealous that this guy is more into the guitar player than himself. Also, I found some fan fiction, which is a very crazy story about a half demon, half angel trying to save Johnny. And the guitar player, of course, ending with Johnny kissing her, quote, warmly and softly. We also find some iconic clothing, being Johnny's pants up in his room, which I actually might start wearing. Eventually, we find the guitar in his locked room, and also if you look at his messages, this guy is trying to find someone to perform surgery on him to make him look like the guitar player as well, which you may think is unrealistic, but somebody actually did try to get surgery to look like Justin Bieber in real life a long time ago. Which one's Justin? I literally can't tell. But after getting the guitar, we skedaddle out of the building and I drop it off. Next, I figured it's time to continue the main quest for a little bit, so I go meet up with Takamura for the down the street quest. We're here to meet up with a man named Oda to convince him that Yorinobu killed his father, so he'll let us tell Saboro's daughter, Hanako, what happened. He's not very interested in what we have to say, so we decide that we need to infiltrate the parade that's coming up to find her and tell her ourselves. First, we need to get help from Wakako, so we head over to her place, and she's actually talking to Rogue on the phone because Rogue thinks that her claws attacked her team or something like that. So she gives us a shard with everything we need to sneak in, including the sniper's vantage points and info about the net runners that are guarding the place. The next day, we meet up with Takamura to discuss the plan, and he leans up against an invisible railing a couple times for some reason. He then tells me to look up in the sky, teleports away, and then tells me that we're gonna jump onto Hanako's float to tell her what happened. Which is also a good time to mention that so far, this game has been pretty bug-free. That's probably the only noticeable one that I've experienced so far, and it really hasn't been that bad or anything. Time will tell though if we experience any more. But he gives me an infected shard to take control of the float, and he wants me to test it on these cameras in the security room. So I break in, plug it in, and it works flawlessly. After that, he tells me that I need to break into an Arasaka industrial plant to use the shard there, and we have a quick bite to eat before I head out. So we go to the roofs to scope out the industrial plant, and then we talked about this cat and life a little bit and head on in. You can sneak in however you want, but I decided to hack this car so it'll stop moving so I can steal it and just drive on in unnoticed. But if you read this computer, you can find out that somebody left a special item in a container, and if you walk across these roofs, assassinate this dude, and then shoot this guy in the face and almost get a nice case of blowing the fuck up, you can grab an iconic weapon called the Prototype Shinigan Mark V. Hey, that's my name. I sneak into the facility, shoot like a dozen guys in the head without being spotted a single time, and install the software. After that, Takamura opens up the roofs for me, and I escape, finishing the quest. I meet up with him again, and he shows me a modified shard with our new intel, and we get to work in one of my favorite quests in the game because this is just really fucking cool looking. Our first goal here is to eliminate 3 snipers, and the first one is easy enough. You just disarm the traps and then shoot him in the face. And after that, you head up to the 21st floor where Adam Smasher is here, which really rustles Johnny's jimmies quite a bit. Say that 3 times fast. Then to get to the second sniper, we gotta drop down this building and assassinate this man while glitching into the wall and break his spine. But for the last one, you gotta make it to this bridge, and you can't just shoot him if you're a lame ass, but if you want to be cool, you can just detonate all of his mines that he set out for you instead. And last but not least, now we need to take out the Netrunner. Unfortunately, as soon as you do, we get attacked by Oda, Takamura's friend from earlier, and we have to do a boss fight with him. This one's actually pretty fun because 1, he's melee based and comes at you pretty quick, but thanks to my air dash ability I literally just got right before this quest, it makes it a lot easier to avoid his attacks. Sometimes he'll go invisible, but it's pretty easy to see where he is with the purple light surrounding him, and I just hit him with a nice ice explosive or something. Eventually I took him out with a super sick nasty slow-mo slide shot to the face. I haven't mentioned it yet, but the combat in this game is pretty damn fun. In the beginning it's pretty basic, although the shooting does feel pretty satisfying from the jump, but once you get more abilities like double jumping and air dashing, it becomes a lot more fun. And that's not to mention the quick hacks that you can do either directly on people to do things like detonate their grenades or just make them kill themselves, but you could also quick hack a ton of objects in the area to make them explode or distract them or look through the cameras and even be able to hack them through the camera's view. You can get pretty creative with the ways you kill people in this game, and I'm kind of a hybrid gunslinger slash hacker, but I imagine if you were a full hacker, you could probably take out an entire room of enemies without anybody ever knowing you were even there. Anyway, you have the choice whether to kill him or not, and I decided not to because I like Takamura and he did not want me to. We hack into the security system and watch Hanako and Yorinobu have a conversation until Takamura comes in to tell her the truth about what happened. She doesn't want to listen, so he knocks her out and I have to escape the building, which completes the quest. After that, we start the search and destroy quest where we need to meet up with Takamura and Hanako at the hideout. So we arrive and I tell Hanako the truth about what happened to her father and about the relic in my head. She doesn't say whether she believes me or not, but it really doesn't matter because we get ambushed by Arasaka and have to escape. You do have the choice to just leave the building or go back and save Takamura, and obviously I went back to save him because that's my dude right there. So now we gotta kill tons and tons of goons, escape the building, and pass out once we leave. Once we wake up, surprisingly, Johnny doesn't complain about what just happened, but does complain about the state of the hotel that we're in. Man's got high standards, what can I say? Somebody pulls up to the hotel and Johnny really wants me to shoot them, but it turns out to just be a doll to deliver a message from Hanako saying that she does, in fact, believe me. She also tells me that the only way to save myself is to acquire Soul Killer and contact her when I have more information about it. She leaves and Johnny says that I am basically whipped, and that finishes the quest. Once I walk outside, the relic starts glitching in my brain and me and Johnny have a nice conversation about our situation.
Can you just tell me what you want? What you really want?
Help me settle my score against Arasaka. That's it.
Your goal's to bury Arasaka, demolish it. Mine's to stay above ground. They seem pretty clearly defined, both.
Actually aligned pretty nicely, too. You need Mikoshi to save your life? That done, I can burn it to the ground.
There it is. The Crusade. Get to Mikoshi, smash the system.
Okay. I'll tell you why I want to destroy Arasaka, but I'll only tell you once. Want to hear it?
All right.
I saw a corpse strip farmers of water, and eventually of land. Saw them transform Night City into a machine fueled by people's crushed spirits, broken dreams, and emptied pockets. Corps have long controlled our lives, taken lots, and now they're after our souls.
Might be right. Can't really argue with you there.
V, I've declared war not because capitalism's a thorn in my side or out of nostalgia for an America gone by. This war's a people's war against a system that spiraled out of our control. It's a war against the fucking forces of entropy. Understand? Do whatever it takes to stop them, defeat them, gut them. If I gotta kill, I'll kill. If I need your body, I'll fucking take it. Fucking hell. You still don't see it, but you will one day.
Then Takamura sends me a sick selfie to let me know that he's still alive. Soon after that, I got this mysterious message from an unknown number that told me to meet them at a motel and does not respond to my query about who it is. This starts the violence quest, so I head over there to meet this mysterious stranger and hopefully not get my butt touched inappropriately. I arrive to the hotel to find the mysterious stranger is a very chromed out woman named Lizzie Wizzy and not a booty bandit. She tells me that she's in trouble because she hasn't made anything worth listening to in a year, and she fell in love. Aw. Unfortunately, she thinks her boyfriend is cheating on her because he's having secret phone calls in the bathroom and secret meetings and whatnot. And it turns out that her boyfriend is also her manager, and she wants me to go get some evidence that he's cheating. So I head over to the club and do some investigating, but this brick shit house won't let me in until I use my street kid charm on him. So I head to the VIP room and watch through the cameras to find the boyfriend, who is not cheating actually, but he is talking to somebody about making a clone of Lizzie and taking out the undesirable aspects of her personality. And Johnny pops in to give his whole 2 cents about the situation. So I download the footage, but before you call Lizzie and tell her, you could actually confront Liam and make him pay you 30,000 kins cash to not tell Lizzie, which I gladly accept, and then immediately call Lizzie to tell her anyway because I'm just a little rascal. She's pretty pissed obviously, but that ends the quest. But not really, because a few days later she'll call you again to meet her at the same hotel. So I mosey on over there only to find out that Liam is fucking dead and Lizzie strangled him. She's kind of apologetic about it at first, but then she thinks the whole story would make a great brain dance and kind of forgets about the whole remorse thing. Now she just wants you to dispose of the body, so I go dump him in this freezer about 5 feet away from her room. And surely nobody will ever find him here and somehow connect her to the murder, thus finishing the quest. Now we can get back to another main quest called Automatic Love, where we need to meet up with Judy and ask her where Evelyn is so we can find out who she was working for. She tells me that she's actually a sex doll and used to work at a place called The Clouds and gives me the address. Before I leave, she calls me back to ask me in a very worried tone to let her know how Evelyn is doing. So we head over to Clouds and Johnny says some very poetic words while we're in the elevator.
This whole situation's bent over, cheeks spread wide.
I head on in and have to get myself scanned so they can pick a compatible doll for me. So I talk to the doll and ask about Evelyn while we also talk about some introspective stuff like death and whatnot for a while. Eventually we get to the topic at hand and she tells me that one of her customers did a number on her, but that's all she knows, and tells me to ask somebody named Tom. She also tells me where Evelyn's booth is, so I go investigate in there and play a recording of what happened to Evelyn, which is very confusing. Now we have to go find this Tom guy by stealing the security pass and getting into the VIP rooms. I talked to Tom, who also has no idea where Evelyn is, but says that she had an accident and had to go to a special clinic to get a new faceplate, and points me in the direction of somebody named Woodman. So I find Mr. Manwood munching on a burger, and I use my net running charm to convince him to tell me where Evelyn is. He tells me that whatever happened to her in that room was from somebody outside, and whoever did it must have gotten an order from somebody high up to recycle her. But instead, he tells me that they took her to a Ripper doc that paid him for her body. Eventually, he gives me the details of the Ripper, whose name is Fingers. So we head out and Johnny drops some more sophisticated lines on us, and then the chip starts doing a number on me again. But before I continue that, I decided to do the Love Roller Coaster side quest because apparently it is missable if you go too far in the main quest. So I head over to this place where these guys have been trying to fix this roller coaster for a few hours, but apparently didn't think about just plugging it the fuck in, so I do just that and get it back up and running. They're all too pussy to try it out, so me and Johnny hop on and give her a whirl. And seeing Johnny absolutely beaming with joy while V screams his head off legitimately put a smile on my face. Anyway, once you get off, that finishes the quest, and now we can continue the Judy stuff. So I call her to tell her what I learned since I promised her I would, and then we head over to Jig Jig Street to find Fingers. Once I walk in, Judy is actually already here, and I use my cool charm to convince these ladies to let us cunt in front of them. So we talk to Fingers, and I ask him about Evelyn, but he says he doesn't remember her until I ask him if he knows Woodman, where he says that he did not pay Woodman for Evelyn, but Woodman actually paid Fingers to take Evelyn, which is not what Woodman told me. He tells me that Evelyn came to him about half alive, and he tried to help her but couldn't figure out what was wrong with her. He doesn't know where she is now, but says she's probably going to be used for some underground brain dances. And eventually he tells me that he called his fixer, who came to pick her up the same day, and the fixer turns out to be Wakako. Judy gives him a nice bitch smack, and we head out to call Wakako, and she gives me one of the brain dances from the underground location that's making them, and I bring him to Judy. We look around for some clues, and I figure out that it's probably near some electric corp factory near a Buck and Slice pizza place. A buck a slice in 2077? That's probably the most unrealistic thing about this game so far. So we head over to the location, and there's actually a message about how I asked about them on their computer. But I go through the facility, murdering dozens and dozens of enemies, making my way through, and eventually we do find Evelyn, who looks like she went to town on some barbecue wings. We take her outside, and me and Johnny have a quick smoke. Also, Judy went went spelunking in Evelyn's noggin and got a brain dance for me to watch, where we see Evelyn talking with some mysterious lady whose face is blurred, and it turns out that they're actually discussing me. We also see some papers from Pacifica, so that's where we're headed next. And it turns out that the people she was working for are the same people that messed with her biochip, and they had her hire me for the heist. In the next brain dance, we find out that they were using her to try to get me to get the chip so they could use Johnny Silverhand to find a netrunner called Old Cunningham, which is probably why she tried to have me cut Dex out of the deal, because she really wanted the chip for herself. That's the end of the quest, but now I need to get help from the Voodoo Boys in Pacifica. But first, I'm gonna do some more side stuff real quick. Eventually, I get a call from a woman named Claire Russell who says that she needs a driver for some street races and tells me to meet her at the bar. So I do just that, and she tells me that there's 4 different races and that she'll be my navigator. She sends us the location of the first race, so we head over there, and you could either use her car or your car, and obviously I'm gonna use my car because it's way cooler. And after that, it is in fact a race, and I was wondering if I could sabotage people's cars by hacking into them, and you actually can. Sadly, I don't have enough RAM to explode the cars unless I go into overdrive mode, which I obviously did. And this was actually a lot tougher than I thought it would be, because people are constantly shooting at you, and Claire couldn't hit the backside of a barn door if she was possessed by this guy, so it's pretty much up to me to sabotage the other racers and huff health gas like it's going out of style. After the first race, it seems like there's more behind Claire and why she really does this, because she tells me that she lost her last driver but doesn't want to talk about it right now. The next race is in the Badlands, but it didn't let me choose the car this time, so I had to use hers, and I blew up a lot more people this time, but it was still pretty close at the end. And then our car flew like 100 feet away, and I had to wait like 2 minutes for her to get back to the finish line so we could talk. She says that her last driver was better than me and also her husband, but doesn't tell me how he died just yet. Then I made the mistake of telling her that she could take me to her garage because I forgot that her car is in another state right now, so I had to wait a few more minutes for her to arrive. And then, before I could skip the ride, we had to painfully back up all the way to the finish line just so we could leave again. She must be using one of those cybernetic telekinesis steering wheels. Eventually she drops me off, and before the next race I ended up getting a sweet new car for the low price of free. Because if you go back to that cave where you helped Panam way earlier in the game, you could drive through until you get to this shipping container with this black Rayfield car that starts the quest called Merkman Returns Once More and Forever, where all you have to do is read this note that's obviously a Batman reference, I mean Merkman, and then get into this car and now it's all yours. Unlike the other Rayfield cars, you actually can't change the color since it's like supposed to be the Batmobile, I think, but I like the black anyway. Plus it's like one of the fastest cars in the game, so that helps. It's so fast in fact that I got it stuck in literal concrete after like 5 seconds of driving it. Anyway, the third race is in San Domingo, and this time V says that he has a bad feeling about this because there's a bunch of gangs involved in this race. Nothing different happens though, but this time Claire says that she wants to talk to me, and she finally tells me about what happened to her husband, which is that he was killed in one of the races and she wants revenge on the driver who killed him in the next race, which is like kind of stupid because that's like how the races work, isn't it? People are constantly shooting at you. So you do try to murder people to win, but her point is that the guy who killed her husband would have won the race, but he decided to stop just so he can kill her husband. But how many husbands has she killed, I wonder? And V isn't so convinced that it was some premeditated murder like she thinks. But if you say, "Are you sure it was a murder?" and "My priority is winning," and respond to her text by saying, "Just remember what you promised me," you can get one of the better outcomes for this quest. So before the last race, Claire and Samson get into it, and then we get started. Except this time, you have the option to either finish the race or follow Samson. So I decide to follow Samson until he eventually wrecks his car. But after that, according to Samson, he did not kill Dean. He says that Dean passed him and lost control of his car and died, and Claire says that Samson rammed into him, but as Samson correctly points out, that's not against the rules, and that this is a race where people die like all the time. Claire finally sees reason thanks to my choices earlier and does not kill him. After that, she says that she will never race again and gives us her car called the Beast. And a few days later, since we saved Samson, he'll call you to give us his car as well. That's the end of the Beast in Me questline, and after that I got a message from somebody named Sandra Dorset, who is surprisingly that booby lady that we rescued from the beginning of the game that the medic people came and took away while we were still with Jackie. She tells me that some people came and took her databank while she was passed out, and she wants me to go get it back for her, and she really does not want me to access access it because it is confidential. So I head over to the location, and this also starts the last login gig at the same time since it's in the same building, so I basically had to do them simultaneously. But in the gig quest, apparently some corpo guy screwed over Regina but left his data pad behind while he escaped to Night City, so she wants me to go get it for her. So I head into the building, shoot a bunch of people, and I find the shard that Sandra wanted me to get, and I know that she didn't want me to read it, but I'm just a curious little guy. But it basically says that Sandra was making an AI that allows them to condition the minds of their targets. For one of the subjects, after a period of subliminal conditioning, at some point she began to display acute psychotic behavior and had a dispute over coffee where she strangled her employee and then jumped out of the 16th floor window of the research facility. Nice. Then I found the laptop for Regina. After that, I also found some chopped up bodies and went upstairs to find the man responsible, who says he was forced to do it. I tell him I don't believe him, but then he tells me he'll give me a discount because he's a Ripper Doc. So I agree, because I like discounts. I deposit the laptop for Regina and call Sandra to tell her I got the databank, and she tells me to bring it to her apartment. So I do just that, and she asks me if I looked at the information, and I'm honest with her, but she's not too mad about it. Especially because I used my technical know-how to compliment her, and she actually gives me some extra money, which finishes the quest. And after that, I got a message from Jim Jerry. Sweet name, who tells me that there's some more races available and I can get $10,000 and an auto fixer discount if I win. I'll do that later because I want to finish Judy's quest line, but I need to do the next main quest before I can start getting hers again. So I call up Mr. Hand so I can get into contact with the Voodoo Chief. But in order for them to talk to me, I need to do a gig for them first. So I head over to this church to meet my contact, and he tells me to go meet the leader of the Voodoo Boys. So I do just that and find a man named Placide who cuts the head off of a chicken and walks away. But now you can pick up the chicken murder weapon, which also has the ability to kill humans as well. After a long walk through the city, he plugs some shit into my arm and tells me that he wants me to take out a group of the Animals gang that's in the building he wants to take over. And once I get inside, he wants to get some vehicle full of Netrunner tech that he thinks is important to the Animals. He also tells me that there's some big important Netwatch agent inside and I need to take him out as well. I start my assault from outside, blowing up many people and whatnot, make my way inside and have to kill like 20 or 30 people at least in a really big fight that was pretty tough actually. Probably should have done this all stealthy like I've been doing for most of the game, but I just wasn't feeling it in this mission. After taking everybody out, I jack into the van, and now I have to find that Netwatch agent. So I make my way through the area and eventually get to a boss fight with Sasquatch here, which was actually very easy. She's mainly melee focused, so if you have the dash ability, it's pretty easy to just jump and dash around the room without her touching you. Eventually I make my way to the Netwatch agent, who cuts my communication with Placide, so it's just me and him talking. He tries to talk his way out of the situation and tells me that the Voodoo Boys will basically just get rid of me as soon as I finish the job. He also tells me that when Placide jacked into me earlier, he put a virus into my system. So I decide to run a system scan, and it turns out he was in fact not capping. He tells me if I let him walk, he'll get rid of the virus for me and release the two people that I really came here for. And since the Voodoo Boys were trying to betray me, and I think they're kind of dicks in the first place, I decided to side with Netwatch. After that, I head back to Placide, who was obviously not very happy, but I don't really give a shit. But Bridget, their leader, finally comes out, which is the woman I really did all this for in the first place, so I finally get to talk to her. This is also the woman that commissioned the Arasaka heist in the first place, and the one that was talking to Evelyn in the brain dance because she wanted to talk to Ult through Johnny's engram. Because Ult is apparently the only one that can give them safe passage through the Black Wall, which is like a super advanced firewall thing that's supposed to keep rogue AI like Ult locked away. So she sends me into the bridge to get into the deep net, and I start reliving Johnny's memories once again. Eventually we get introduced to the fabled Ult Cunningham, who is Johnny's ex-girlfriend, and they engage in some premarital sex. Yuck. They start fighting a whole bunch, and eventually some goons come up to us and give Johnny a good old double stabbing through the stomach and AI nap Ult. Johnny wakes up at the Ripper Dock, and this guy just tells him a bunch of stuff.
Ult's kidnapping, it's collateral shit. They swiped her to get at me.
You even know what she does for a living? Girl's one of the best runners around.
So, one of how many? No. Only link to Arasaka's the fact that Johnny Silver and boning her.
Arasaka wants her. Abduction was a standard intercorp extraction. Nothing more.
Okay, so what are they after?
Soul Killer, an AI. Sound familiar at all?
Course. Urban legend with the shittiest name ever.
It's no legend. Soul Killer's real. And your Chumbas at Arasaka just hired the runner who wrote it. Take that in. Saka with Soul Killer to do with as it pleases. Grim, my man.
So we head off to Arasaka to retrieve her, but first, we have to stop to get Rogue. She is not very happy to see me. Doesn't take too long for us to get attacked by Arasaka, so we have to fight our way out of the club. After we escape, we have to play some sick tunes outside of the Arasaka building to get their attention, which works very well. After blowing a few heads off, I have to fight a man named Akira, which was really easy because he got stuck in the floor. And unfortunately, Alt is no longer breathing. Alt? More like delete. But apparently she's not technically dead, she's just in the Arasaka subnet or something. And this was probably the real reason Johnny wanted to blow up Arasaka Tower when we played as him the first time. So I touch the black wall thing and talk to Alt, and she immediately fucking vaporizes all the voodoo boys because they were never actually gonna help me in the first place. After that, she tells me that she's not really Alt, she's basically like Johnny, so she's just kind of an engram of Alt. And she can't help me unless she has access to Mikoshi, which is where they hold all the digitized personalities. But if she gets access to Mikoshi, she'll basically be able to make an engram of me and separate it from Johnny, which begs the question if I would still really be me if I'm just an engram after that. Then we wake up and see that all the voodoo boys are really dead, for real, no cap. And now we have to escape the rest of the voodoo boys, which is pretty easy. Even the part where we have to kill Placide, who doesn't have an iconic weapon, but he does have a cool trench coat. Once I escape, that finishes the quest, and my relic starts acting all funky again. Johnny brings me to this hotel while I'm dying to give me these old dog tags from when he was in the army from a man who sacrificed his life to save him. After that, he has one more request, which is to kill Adam Smasher since he killed Johnny. And he wants me to make sure that Rogue is along for the trip, which means that he wants me to take those pills so Johnny could control my body for a while and talk to Rogue himself. And this is almost the point of no return if we were to continue the main story, but we have a lot to take care of before we get to the end, including a new quest that I just got called Dog Eat Dog, where I got a call from an unknown person who calls herself Songbird, who says that they can save my life if I come to Dogtown. And this is the setup for the Phantom Liberty DLC that we will start very soon. After finishing all of Regina's gigs, you get a mission called Last Call, which just means that you have to go to your stash and get some iconic cyberware. Then I did all the gigs for Dakota Smith, which are basically all in the Badlands, including the one called Dancing on a Minefield, which subtly foreshadows what we're going to be doing, where we go to a minefield, which is shockingly full of mines. And after disarming them all and taking out some Militech drones, I find the guy's body, who is very not alive, and a message on his body between him and his girlfriend saying that this is his last job for real, which he technically was not wrong about. There's another gig for her called Big Pete's Got Big Problems, which subtly foreshadows the size of Pete and the size of his problems. So the aforementioned Big Pete runs a garage in the Badlands and fixes cars for the Raffins, and eventually made some enemies who want him dead, who are also friends of Dakota, so I need to kill Big Pete for Dakota and her friends. I don't know why they call him Big Pete though, because he seems more like average size Pete to me. And he happens to know Tiny Mike, which is actually a guy that I met from a Regina gig, which I sadly did not record, but this guy happens to be his less truthfully named brother, so that's pretty cool. The next one is called Trevor's Last Ride, which subtly foreshadows how many rides Trevor has left. But after doing all of her gigs, you get a new quest called Every Grain of Sand, where she left me a gift in my garage, which turns out to be this truck, which is not my favorite car in the game, but oh well. Now we can get back to some real side quests, starting with Judy's quest line, because she called me a while ago to say that something bad happened, but didn't really want to go into detail, so I head over to her place to see what's going on. She probably needs help picking out a new color for her hair dye, am I right? Oh, yeah, so Evelyn killed herself while Judy was gone. So Judy has me put Evelyn's bloody-ass body in her bed for some reason while she calls the paramedics. After that, I damn near light her hair on fire, and then we talk about what happened to Evelyn between the 3 days before she got the fingers. And apparently, she was with Woodman and he, quote, had his way with her, then pawned her off. She alludes that she wants us to do something about it and then sends me away for now, which finishes the quest. After a while, she calls me up for a new quest where she tells me that the Mox Club that we met Evelyn at is now ours, and she wants to take over the Clouds Club. First thing we have to do is talk to somebody named Miko, who unofficially runs Clouds. So we head over to her apartment and talk to Miko, who immediately insults me and remembers me from being in her club. We were unsuccessful at convincing her to help, but she does tell us that Woodman is down in the lobby below, and she emphasizes that he is alone. And while I'm following Judy, I get one of the worst glitches that I've had happen in this game, where I literally just teleport to the other side of the apartments onto this ladder out of nowhere. Really strange. I'd be less upset about it if it wasn't right before a 2 to 3 minute segment where you gotta follow Judy. Anyway, now she wants me to kill Woodman. So we head to the bottom and confront him, and he is exactly where Miko said he was, and he says,
when Evelyn needed help, you her.
Could have also broken her neck. Hung up her head like a chandelier till it started to rot.
So that's that. Judy says that she's not giving up on her plans to take over the clouds, so she's going to get some more people to help and call me later. After a couple days, Judy calls me to tell me to come meet up with her and Miko about the plan because apparently she got her to agree. So I head to the apartment to meet up with the crew, and she tells me that she modified a behavioral chip that she can equip them with to make them do whatever we want. She does say that once combat mode is initiated, there is no way to turn it off, so that might be a problem later. It wasn't. And Tom decides to test the chip out on me by kicking my ass. So we discuss the plan, and it turns out that I need to get to the Cloud's real boss named Hiromi Sato. So me and the crew meet up later, and Roxanne here is wearing her very best My First Criminal Activity outfit, and we head into the apartment. I make my way through, killing some dudes and dudettes, and this is the first time that I noticed that the AI is just really stupid sometimes, because this dude is just straight up admiring a big old pile of trash bags just so I can have the opportunity to sneak up on him. Anyway, I make my way into the house, kill some guys, and walk into the meeting where she has our target and 2 other guys incapacitated by making them watch porn. Not even kidding. And these other 2 guys were not part of the plan, but she wants to make a big show of this and become the new Hiromi and run the Clouds herself. She shows them a little presentation of our takeover at Clouds, but Judy is freaking out on the phone because this wasn't the plan. And I tell them that the dolls at the Clouds are going to be independent from now on, and they did not like that very much at all. Miko tells me that the Tiger Claws are gonna be pissed now, but I told Judy I would help her with her plan, so I'm just doing what I was hired to do. But this decision does not result in the best outcome because Clouds ends up getting attacked by the Tiger Claws and a bunch of dolls get slaughtered. Womp womp. Eventually Judy calls me for her last quest, where she tells me this particular mission does not require a gun but a wetsuit, and tells me to come meet her in the Badlands. So I head over there and she tells me that she found a way for 2 people to make a brain dance at the same time. So we dive into the water where there's actually an underground highway, which is pretty cool, and also this is the first time I've been underwater in this entire game, honestly, and I never even thought about if it was possible or not. And once we go deeper, there's actually an entire town under here. Hell yeah. So we swim through the town, scanning some stuff, and I start hearing the voices of Judy's past for some reason. Probably because the brain link thing we got going on right now. After exploring some more, eventually my relic starts making me go all cuckoo bananas again, and Judy brings me back to the surface. And if I was a girl, I could romance Judy at this point, but I'm not, and I wouldn't do that to Panam anyway. And since me and Judy are like connected right now or whatever, she actually kind of hears Johnny for a second. But after a bit, Judy finally tells me that Clouds got attacked by the Tiger Claws, Tom died, and Roxanne barely got out alive. And once we wake up in the morning, she tells me that she's actually leaving Night City forever because of all of the bad shit that happened. Then she gives me access to her apartment, finishing the quest, and I get an achievement for finishing her storyline. Now that that's all taken care of, I can do some more regular side quests, and I got a text from a man named Ozob a while back ago needing me for a job, so I call him to see what he wants. He tells me that he needs a driver for something, but doesn't tell me for what yet. So I go meet up with him, and it turns out to be some ghoul-looking motherfucker with a grenade for a nose. He tells me to take him to Little China and wait for him to come back. Doesn't take too long for him to start popping fools, and I take them all out with him and we part ways. Before that though, he tells me that his brother ripped his nose off with pliers and he put a grenade there to replace it just because he thought it was cool. That's hard. He also gives me his nose as an iconic grenade that works like regular grenades, but it shoots out confetti whenever it explodes, so that's neat. Next, I decided to finish the Beat on the Brats quest line that I got forever ago, and I only waited till now to finish it because Ozob is actually one of the people you fight, and if you kill him during the fight by blowing up his nose, then you won't get to do the quest I just did, obviously. So I go to the next fight at this club where I use my whopping 8 points in body to intimidate this guy into letting me in. I find this beast of a woman that I have to fight, and I lost about 12 times before I finally said fuck it and went out to buy some gorilla arms, and then won with those on my first attempt. Next I go fight Ozob, and it took me a couple tries, but luckily I did not explode his face because I kinda like Ozob. Oh shit, Ozob is like Bozo backwards because Bozo the Clown. I just got that. Anyway, time for the last fight with a man named Razor, and when I arrive, Coach is here, and he takes me off to the side to tell me that I could potentially throw the fight for some extra money if I want. And I actually thought about it for a second, because like, am I in the fighting business, or am I in the money business? But then I tell him to eat my ass, because I am in the legend business. This kid also pulls me aside to tell me that her dad fought Razor once and died in the ring, and she really wants me to win the fight for him. This would be a tougher choice if I actually decided to take a fall, but the funny thing is she's actually actually lying to you anyway and is only saying this to win a bet and make some money. Anyway, the whole hood is here to see you fight. We got Rhino, Victor, the twins who aren't really twins, and also before the fight, Victor tells you that Razor just got surgery on his abs a while ago, so that's his weak spot. And despite my gorilla arms, I lost like a million times until I finally realized that you could actually parry in this game by blocking right before they hit you, which made this much easier, and I wish I would have known that from the beginning. That's what I get for skipping the tutorial, I guess. And seeing Victor smile so hard after I win makes it all worth it because he's a real one. I also decided to finish Delamain's quest by getting the rest of his cars, which I have 3 left. The first one I did has a big problem with flamingos for some reason, so you gotta go around and destroy them all, and then he'll go back to Delamain. The next one I find in this junkyard who has me get in his car so we could talk, which feels oddly personal. He's kind of a rebellious free spirit type who just doesn't want to go home to daddy. He doesn't make me do anything, but he's just generally a disturbing individual. The last one is a depressed car who threatens to off himself because he's like, I'm literally a car in a world full of humans, which I'm like, shit, fair enough. But I convinced him that life is worth living and he heads back to Delamain. That was the last one, so Delamain asked me to come back to his headquarters to give me my reward. So I head back, return the scanner, and finish the quest. But eventually he messages me to tell me that the AI cores of the taxi want to become permanently self-sufficient, and he believes that there's some type of virus in his system, so he needs me to come back to help. So I go back to his place, but the door is malfunctioning, so I have to sneak in. And after I do that, I find a computer that says the AI was trying to convince them to basically sell itself, which is strange. And once you get to the back, you have to get around all this electricity to get to the back of the room, and I think that all the Delamain AI are in these little robots that are flying around now. But after making our way to the control room, you have a choice whether to reset the core, which is what Delamain wants, or destroy the core, setting all the AI free. Or if you have enough intelligence, you can force the personalities to merge with Delamain. And the last one seemed like the best option at first, but I think that would be like basically torture for Delamain, because like V already hates having one other personality in his brain, and imagine having like 8 of them. Plus, Delamain is a real motherfucker. He saved my life at the beginning of the game, and he's been nothing but a good friend to me. And one of the other personalities tried to kill me. So I did what he wanted and reset the core to preserve only Delamain and keep him as he was. Johnny does not seem to like this because he wanted you to set them all free and literally called you a piece of shit. Tragically, Delamain does not remember me anymore since I basically factory reset him to get rid of all the other personalities. But your reward for finishing the quest is getting one of Delamain's taxis as your own that will also talk to you. And fun fact, if you still had Skippy before his personality was erased, Delamain and Skippy would actually talk to each other.
Fun fact. Men account for 56% of road rage victims.
Impressive weaponry.
Why, thank you.
Next, I decided to do the Dream On quest that I got forever ago, which is the follow-up quest with Jeff and Elizabeth Perales. So I head to the apartment, and he tells me that they had a break-in and that he thought he shot the guy, but after that his head started spinning and he woke up and there was no sign of him. They also notified their security, and they claim that there was no break-in and there's nothing on the cameras, and they think that Jeff just had a bad dream, especially because there was nothing missing from the apartment. So Elizabeth leads us around the apartment to find some clues, and we see that there was some blood stains that were cleaned up and bullet holes that have been filled in, so obviously somebody was shot in this hallway and somebody is trying to cover it up. So I put on my detective hat, and upon further investigation we find out that their security team did know about the break-ins, and there's a ton of video files that were deleted. Eventually we also find a secret door that Elizabeth says that she didn't even know about that leads to a room that shows that their security team has been secretly spying on them. After a minute, Elizabeth's head starts suspiciously hurting as well, so she leaves me alone for now. And when you read the files on the computer in the secret room, you can see that they're talking about a subject Alpha who is clearly Jeff and how they're using neural dampening on him. They even mention how they hired you and literally questioned his sanity for doing so. And in the last message, they talked about how Jeff shot one of their guys, so it definitely did happen. So we follow the cables from the computer up to the roof where there's a satellite pointing at the tower with a black van next to it. I tell Elizabeth about it and that I'm gonna go check out the van, and she seems very pushy about me not telling Jeff about this yet. And if you look at this computer, you could also see that Judy is actually the one that recommended you to help them with the last quest you did for them. Also, more evidence that Jeff is very forgetful lately, because apparently he told somebody to fire their ad campaign manager, but when it didn't happen, the guy was very confused and Jeff seems to not remember ever telling him to do so in the first place. But I head over to the van, who immediately takes off and leads us to an ambush where we gotta take out many goons. Once that's taken care of, we jack into this van where we see an insane amount of records on Jeff and Elizabeth, and it turns out that they're not only spying on them, but they're basically mind controlling controlling them by putting new memories in their heads and modifying their personalities. And it's not just them either, there are lots of other people as well. Before we can download it though, somebody wipes all the data and we call Elizabeth to tell her what we found, but before I can tell her the details, she insists that I meet her in person without Jeff. So I meet up with her and she tells me that a while ago she noticed that Jeff's personality was changing and basically becoming a different person. He stopped reading, forgot his favorite movie, started listening to different types of music, and he even forgot that he had a brother and thought he was an only child. She also noticed that she was changing herself. She says that she tried to tell Jeff, but he didn't really believe her and just thinks that she's imagining things, and he even brought up a vacation that they've never been on in vivid detail. And she brings up a good point that they might have even just wiped the vacation from her memory instead of implanting it into Jeff's, but who knows. She also says that she got a call from, quote, them, whoever they are, in a modified voice. And they told her that they could destroy their lives at any minute if they wanted to, so she doesn't want Jeff to find out about this so these people don't kill him or something. She tells me that she's going to tell Jeff that the security was spying on them for his rival Holt, who is the guy who's running for governor against him. And she's going to set up a meeting with me and Jeff so I can tell him what she told me to say. And even Johnny isn't sure about what he would do in this situation. But on the way to Jeff, I get a call from an unknown number.
Yeah?
It doesn't matter what you tell him.
What's
It doesn't
going
matter
on
what
here?
you think of doing or do. You can't change anything.
What?
We know who you are. We know what you are. We know what you want. You are playing with fire. Don't dare cross the line.
Once I got to Jeff, I did have to think long and hard about what I was going to do because this is genuinely one of the scariest quests in the game because just the thought that somebody could implant memories into your mind and all of your memories could be fabricated really freaks me out. I ended up telling him the truth though because I would want somebody to tell me if they knew what was happening even though it would probably make me a paranoid mess. Also, Johnny seems to think that this might be some rogue AI pulling the strings. And fun fact, you could actually see a mysterious man named Mr. Blue Eyes watching you from the balcony during your meeting. Also, after a couple days, Elizabeth will message you pretty upset that you told Jeff and then block you. But that finishes one of the most unsettling quests in the game, and then I start the Bullets side quest, which is very easy to miss because you have to shop at a specific clothing store at least once and then come back a second time where the store will be attacked by a Cyberpsycho. After you kill him, you just gotta talk to one of the officers that shows up and tell her what happened, and that's about it. Another quest that's easy to miss is called Career Opportunities, where you need to get the high score in the Trauma Drama minigame. I went to this bar so I can play the game, and I noticed that Jackie's pistols are here for you to pick up, so I don't know how I missed that. It does suck that you can't dual wield in this game because they do give you two identical pistols. Anyway, like I said, you need to get the high score in this game, and then you'll get a message telling you to go to a website where you'll get a trauma uniform and a car. But luckily for me, the game is glitched because your character just constantly shoots upward instead of forwards, which makes it almost impossible to play. And I say luckily because even if it wasn't, from what I've read, it is very difficult to get the high score, and they even had to lower it at one point in an update. And it straight up takes like 30 to 40 minutes to complete the game, regardless if you get the high score or not, because you do have infinite continues, but every time you do die, you lose 10,000 points. So you could theoretically spend 40 minutes playing this game and not even get the high score, and I'm glad it's broke so I don't have to do that because it's really hard. I will say that other than the shooting upwards thing, it does seem like this is a very well made minigame that has tons of different enemies and even boss fights and lots of weapons and stuff. So I could see somebody that's into this kind of game spending hours on it. Not me though. So instead of that, I decided to get the rest of El Captain's gigs out of the way. And while doing those, I got a message from the store owner that we saved from the Cyberpsycho earlier, who thanked me and tells me I get a discount at his store now. And that the cop that was there that questioned us turned out to be a former Cyberpsycho herself who killed 14 innocent people. So that's nice. I also finished Rogue's gigs, which seem to only unlock after you do everybody else's gigs. But now we can do some more side quests, and all of these ones are related to Johnny Silverhand in some way. Starting with the Chippin' In quest that we got a while ago, where we have to go meet up with Rogue in the afterlife and give Johnny access to my body so he could talk to her about Smasher. So I give him control, and he promises that he won't do anything other than talk to Rogue. He is a goddamn liar. Johnny takes control over your body and has a quick drink or two, and I'm surprised that they actually let you make choices during this section since you're not really V at the moment. I do also like that they make your arm look like Johnny's because that's how he sees himself. Anyway, after getting nice and schwiggity-schwasted, Johnny decides it's a good idea to get a tattoo. And you do have the choice between a billy goat or the other one, and I'm a curious little guy, so I decided to get the other one, and Johnny says that he's going to love it. referring to V, I hope. We get some more drinks, party with a stripper, do some drugs, smash some hoes, get in a fight with said hoe's bodyguard, and get tossed out of the club. Then my hoe returns, and for some reason we steal a car despite me having like 20 of them. I put on some sick shades that we actually get to keep, being Johnny's aviators, and I flick her bean so good that we get into a wreck. She gives me the number to somebody named Grayson, and I finally get my body back and wake up to Rogue chilling in my room. We talk about Smasher, and apparently Grayson works for him, which is why we got his number. After she leaves, me and Johnny have a conversation and complete the quest and have to wait until Rogue gives us a call to tell us where Grayson is. Also, while looking at my character, I noticed that I had a new implant, which is the tattoo that Johnny got that says Johnny plus V with a little heart and arrow going through it, which I think is very sweet. It almost seems like half a prank and half a genuine way for Johnny to show his affection towards V. I just wish that it didn't actually take a slot on your hand cybernetics, but I do think it's worth keeping to give up a few combat bonuses. After that, I head to the afterlife to meet up with Rogue, and I see that Tiny Mike is here from that gig I mentioned earlier. I talk to him for a minute, but he surprisingly does not bring up the fact that we killed his brother. But oh well. I follow Rogue to the parking lot, and she gives me a replica of Johnny's jacket, which is pretty sick nasty, and now I am dripped out in all of the Johnny merch that I could handle. I do change the pants and shoes though, because I did not like those. Anyway, Rogue takes me to the shipping dock where Grayson and hopefully Smasher are, so we can take them out in one go. And me and Rogue actually sneak in together, which kind of makes me wish you could have a companion in this game, because that would be pretty neat, especially with the people that you could have romances with, like Panam or something. Or a dog, because dogs are cool, but there's actually 0 dogs in this game, so that probably wouldn't make sense. But we sneak onto the ship and find out that Smasher is blackmailing the entire Militech board by kidnapping somebody's wife named Mallory, and Rogue thinks this might be the body we found earlier. Then we somehow get caught, even though I was inside of a crate, but we take out the Netrunner and Grayson himself, who actually drops Johnny's gun, which I have been praying we would get this entire game ever since I used it as Johnny. And when I pick it up, I get an achievement for getting all of Johnny's items in the game. Then Grayson alludes that Rogue might have betrayed Johnny or something, since she was the only one that survived the attack on Arasaka Tower, so that's interesting. But unfortunately, Smasher isn't here, but he does tell us where they buried Johnny's body. Also, if you take the key off of his body and push this button up here, it'll drop this crate which has Johnny's old Porsche in it. Me and Johnny head to the oil field to try to find his buried body, but sadly we couldn't find it, which makes Johnny surprisingly depressed actually. You continue your conversation, and I wanted to get the secret ending that I heard about, and you have to make specific dialogue choices here to make that happen. Sadly, you have to be kind of mean to Johnny, which I do not like very much. But after that, you actually have a pretty nice conversation that made me a little emotional on the inside.
What did I achieve shouting chipping in to a bunch of angry, pimply kids?
Give those kids hope that the suits couldn't buy everything.
I remember what I thought on stage. That even if they all died for their ideals, it'd be worth it. But when I look at you... Listen, I realize I fucked up a lot of things. Either let down or used every last person who gave me their trust. Blind, selfish bastard that I was. But I've managed one thing for now. Not to fuck this up, what we have.
Once that's done, and if you made the right dialogue choices, you'll unlock another quest called Blistering Love, where you let Johnny control your body once again so he can take Rogue to the movies. Aw. So we do just that, and a nice touch is that if you have Johnny's Porsche, it'll automatically make you drive that car, and Rogue will comment on it. We get the projector up and running, and Johnny and Rogue have a good old time together watching Bushido 10. I think the series fell off after Bushido 3, Revenge of the Shido, but whatever. Johnny tries to kiss her, but she's like, nah, and then he asks me to take him to a man named Kerry, which is an old band member of his. So I meet up with Johnny, and he tells me he wants to go talk to Kerry because he thinks that he's suicidal since he previously tried to kill himself. Once we arrive, we find the place is pretty trashed, and you can look around and Johnny will comment on a lot of stuff. I also found a review on an album he made after Johnny died, which is not very nice. Eventually, we find him showering, and I give control to Johnny once again so he can talk to his buddy. Johnny plays some sick licks on the guitar, and Kerry immediately knows that it's Johnny just by the way he's playing. Then he mollywops the shit out of him. We talked for a bit, and he says all that depression stuff just isn't true, which is exactly what somebody who is depressed would say. And eventually we decide that we're going gonna get the band back together for one last gig. So I call up somebody named Nancy, aka Bess Isis, to get the gig set up, but her assistant picks up and says that she's not here, so we gotta go track her down because Johnny thinks that something might have happened to her. So we go to this club that's filled with a bunch of Maelstrom goons, and they do recognize me from that mission way back at the beginning of the game when I bought that spider bot. And I talk some shit to them, but get saved by this lady named Patricia. She brings me to Nancy and Brick, of all people, which is the guy that I saved in the same mission at the beginning of the game. He doesn't say much about that, but he lets Nancy leave with me, and I see her nice jacket that just has the word bitch on the back of it. But I think she's a nice enough lady. Anyway, she agrees to help organize the gig, and Kerry says that he's got the others. So we gotta go meet up at Danny's place, but when we arrive, we see two other members arguing because Henry here dumped concrete in Danny's pool. So now Danny is making you choose between her or Henry because she refuses to play with him for, you know, cementing her pool. And I had to look up what their beef was because I accidentally skipped the dialogue to ask Kerry what this was about. But I guess long story short, Henry is an addict and Danny tried to help him a bunch of times and got him sober, but as soon as he got sober, he kicked Danny out of his life. But then he got hurt in an accident or something and almost died, but Danny thought that he was over exaggerating or making stuff up again, so she left him there. There's a lot more to it, and it's a surprisingly very nuanced debate about addiction and having to deal with addicts and whatnot. Like, there's a Reddit thread about this entire situation that you could read for literal hours about people debating on who you should pick and who is in the wrong here. They both make good points, but I'm not really going to get into that, so I just picked Henry because dumping concrete into somebody's pool and then kicking your feet up and laughing about it is pretty punk rock if I do say so myself. But that finishes that quest, and we start the next one where we finally get to play a pretty bitchin' concert in my humble opinion. After the concert, we get a new iconic pistol, which is the same one he almost shot me with earlier, and it almost seemed like he was about to say that he tried to shoot himself with this pistol, but he stopped himself before he said that. And this pistol is pretty cool because if you keep shooting it, it fires in the tune of Archangel by the one and only Johnny Silverhand. I really enjoyed that string of side quests because we got to learn a lot more about Johnny and Rogue and see his softer side and learn about his band and see that he actually does care for his old members, even if he pretends he's too cool for school most of the time. But a while back ago, I got a quest called Killing in the Name, where I got a weird message that says humanity is nothing but a pyramid scheme hidden behind a facade of tears. So now I need to go check out the website to find out more about it and who it came from. So I go to the computer, and it turns out that this website was actually made by Nancy, aka Bess Isis, from the quest we literally just did. So I call her up, and she wants me to find out about somebody named Swedenborg. She sends me the coordinates of his last broadcast location, and I head over there and find a pirate router and hack into it and get a message from an unknown number with some more pseudo-intellectual babble about the government and whatnot, and he sends me some new coordinates. And I actually agree with Johnny here, but I can't stop now because curiosity is getting the best of me.
Cause this is all one big waste of time. The fuck do you care about a Borg fucking Swede? He rubs out sayings like a randy teenager and the whole world's guzzling it up. The three branches of government is a lobotomy on the people's autonomy. I mean, what the fuck?
Oh, I get what's going on here. You're jealous.
Jealous? About this shit, Swede? You out of your fucking mind?
Mm-hmm. Cause he's the one all the anarchists and fist bumpers are quoting, while you played in piss-soaked dives for a bunch of stoned zit-faces.
Don't talk shit about what you don't know. Happy fucking trails.
So I head over to the Badlands for the next one, which is just some more cryptic sounding babble and gives me some more coordinates. And Johnny just thinks that somebody is messing with me, and he actually makes me laugh out loud with what he says.
Signal keeps going to another terminal.
Ha! I've got a feeling someone's messing with you, V. You'll follow this breadcrumb trail, and when you connect the dots, all you'll see is a dick.
I'm sure you would love that, wouldn't you?
Fucking A, I would. That cock would be the first thing Swedenborg did that actually made any sense. Except he'd probably give it some pretentious name. Like patriarchal phallus, upholding toxic masculinity. What do you think?
The next location, you gotta climb this tall-ass tower, and it's the same thing as before. Hack into the thing, get a cryptic message, and Johnny talks shit.
And? Signal leads to another place?
Yep.
Hey, maybe this is all part of Swedenborg's message. Life is movement. Fuck the destination. It's how you get there that counts.
Well, there's some truth to that.
Jesus, V, this is philosophy for the hoi polloi. Have you ever read a book in your life? You know what? Don't answer. I don't want to know. So where's this next lead get us? A yoga class? A Tibetan monastery?
No, to an amusement park.
Oh, the plot thickens.
So we head over to the amusement park for the last one to hopefully finally find out the truth about capitalism, government tirade, and Mark Zuckerberg's true form. But when we get there, it turns out that Johnny wasn't too far off the mark, because it's not some deep philosophical person to tell me the secrets of the government and the Illuminati. It's actually just a fortune-telling machine. And Johnny wears the best shit-eating grin on his face while he basically says, "I told you so."
Wait, what the hell is this?
What it looks like. Swedenborg Riviera. Ha! Come one, come all for the profit of Night City. Ha! Oh, that's too good. A wind-up philosopher in a box. Hand me a couple of eddies. See what he cranks out next.
You shall meet an attractive lobbyist when you least expect a violent outbreak of class warfare. Success is the delusion of the soul.
How's this even possible?
Not a fucking clue. But Jesus, V, how beautiful is this? Half the net's getting tweaked on wisdom from a puppet in a glass case. Hairs are being split. Spit is flying over interpretations. Oh, man. Let me tell you, 50 years of soul prison was worth it for this moment right here.
So I hack the final router and get a message that says I have been epically pwned by Sweetie. Honestly, that's fucking hilarious. They got me pretty good, not gonna lie, and Johnny and V's banter throughout the entire quest was some of the best it's ever been in the game. I was also kind of surprised that the most popular thread on Reddit about this quest was somebody who was like genuinely pretty salty that it was just a prank, and I think that makes it even funnier in my opinion. But you have the option to turn the broadcast off or not, and I obviously left it on because I'm just a silly little guy. And after that, I got a call from Kerry to continue his quest line and go meet up with him. He tells me that there's this girl pop group called Us Cracks that want to promote their band and their new deal with a cover of one of Kerry's songs. Blasphemous, I know. Anyway, there's a truck with the girl's gear in it coming, and Kerry wants to blow it the fuck up over a cover song. So we set up a trap, wait for the truck, and after scaring the piss out of the driver and passenger, we blow it up. Then we have to escape the cops and take Kerry to a diner and have some coffee with him. He plays me the band's most popular song, which unfortunately goes kind of hard. After I finished that quest, I got a message from Jeff, who is understandably crashing out about what I told him. And a few days later, Kerry calls me again to tell me that the band is still having their concert and they just postponed it. But instead of committing some terrorist act, this time he just wants to talk to them, but obviously tells me to bring my gun just in case. He shows up looking like the Unabomber and says that we need to find a way to get into the concert, but he doesn't want to just buy tickets because he doesn't want them to get a single doubloon from him. So I talked to this guy who's selling them secondhand, and he wants a whopping 86,000 V-Bucks for them, which I politely refuse. Instead, I just go through the side door that I already have access to from the quest I did for Lizzie Wizzy. So we go talk to the girls, and they say they actually signed a deal to legally let them use his song, and this man is absolutely tweaking.
Rock? You? Okay, let me tell you something. It's been claimed before, but you actually did it. Rock is dead, and you killed it. Congratulations!
And you have to make sure that they kiss and make up to come to an agreement in order to get a quest later on, which I do, and they want to take a picture with him, but I use my cool skill to take a selfie instead, which I think turned out pretty swell. The next day, I get a call from Kerry to tell me to come meet up with him at some club with him and Us Cracks to celebrate their victory. Once I arrive, it turns out that Kerry has joined them and found himself a new band, and I am now famous by proxy and get to do a little interview. After that, he takes me up to the roof and reveals that the only reason he was so mad at those girls was because he was afraid to be in somebody's shadow again, because that's how he felt when he was with Johnny. Aw. And this is when I realized that Kerry likes to eat Snicker bars upside down because he likes the feel of it, but unfortunately for him, Panam has my heart. The next day, Kerry calls me to come meet up with him at the marina for a little boat trip with the boys. And by boys, I mean just me, Kerry, and Johnny. He tells me that he's in a much better place now, thanks to me. And once we finish our trip, Kerry reveals that this is actually not his yacht and is the manager's yacht, who he's still pissed at for signing that deal with us cracks, so we just destroyed the place. Whoa, sexual tension be upon ye. After that, we set the place on fire, and that finishes Kerry's quest line, which we also got an achievement for. And of all 4 quest lines of the people you can romance, I would say that this one is probably my least favorite, at least the second half after the concert stuff, because I really enjoyed everything before that. But after the concert with Johnny, it kind of felt like it had the lowest stakes out of any of them, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because I like a goofy old time as much as the next guy. But going from trying to free a bunch of women who are being abused by a bunch of gang members to a guy who has beef with an all-girl pop group just doesn't hit the same. I do like Kerry more as a character than somebody like River because River is just kind of boring. Also, a nice touch to that quest is that Panam will message you and tells you that she usually doesn't like that kind of band, but their collab with Kerry is actually pretty good. But we're not done with the band just yet, because after a few days, Blue Moon calls me to tell me that she has a stalker problem that she needs help with. She doesn't give you much information about it, she just says that they signed their threatening letters with GC. So I need to go follow Blue Moon on her route and wait for the stalker to appear. And Blue Moon looks very anime girl. Anyway, after following her for a bit, a fan will come up to ask her for a picture, and she says that her name is Green Cloud. Green Cloud, GC. So I follow Green Cloud for a bit, and she goes directly to the gun store and specifically asks for no explosive rounds, so I think we found our stalker. And I actually confront her about it outside of the gun store, and she does reveal herself to be the stalker, but then she teleports away. So I find her in another store and kill her, but not really kill her because Blue Moon doesn't want me to do that, and I have to fight off a bunch of enemies and get evidence off of her body. She also has a note with Blue Moon's details about her day on it. Then we have to decide what to do with her, but Blue Moon is talking to me from really far away for some reason, and then I find her in a huge crowd of people and tell her to let the police deal with it. I like this quest a lot, but it was probably one of the glitchiest ones I've done so far. And the last somewhat Johnny-centric quest is called The Ballad of Buck Ravers, where this dude is rocking out for some money, and Johnny starts discussing his old samurai tapes, and we head out to go see if we can find any. So I go to Johnny's old club location that's now a sushi restaurant, and he tells me that there is a superfan around here that might have them. So I head over to said superfan, who seems to sell nothing but samurai stuff, and you actually get some unique dialogue if you're wearing Johnny's replica jacket, which I am. And after answering some Johnny Silverhand trivia, he gives me a bootleg tape, and I buy literally everything in his stock because it's a bunch of Johnny stuff. And after talking with Johnny, that ends the quest. Now there's only a couple more side quests left in the main game, and both of them take a good amount of time to complete. The first one I finish is all those tarot card ones where you have to run around the city and find those digital painting things on the wall. I've been grabbing them throughout the game whenever I see them, so I only have 7 left, which took me about 10 to 15 minutes to get the rest of them. After getting the last one, I get a trophy and then go talk to Misty, who seems to allude to how our journey is going to end by saying the names of the endings you can get at the end of the game, and gives me her dream catcher as a reward. And now we need to finish the Psycho Killer quest, which is going around and killing all the cyberpsychos in the world. Well, not really killing, because Regina wants you to keep them alive, but for some reason you don't actually have to use a non-lethal weapon or anything, you just don't execute them after you get their health to 0, which kind of seems like a missed opportunity because there are non-lethal weapons in this game, but I guess that just wouldn't be fun since this is basically just a string of boss fights that you probably want to use your favorite weapons for. There's 17 in total, and like I said, they're basically like mini boss fights, and sometimes there's cool variables in the fights. Like the first one I did is in a bunch of water, and the Cyberpsycho will electrify herself, making the water hurt you, so you need to stay in the air or stand on something to keep yourself out of the water. And there's usually a bit of context you can find out about what happened to these people, but there's not an absolute ton of story involved. Like this one was chipped with some experimental combat implants from Militech, and then went all cuckoo from that. But instead of helping her, they just tried to kill her so nobody finds out what they did. And sometimes you gotta do a little bit of detective work to find them, but they're usually just like right around the corner or something. These are pretty fun in my opinion, but I do wish that I would have done some of them earlier because like I'm almost max level now and it's really easy. I even turned the difficulty is high up as it goes, but I never really struggled all that much with most of them. I also found this conversation on one of the psychos about how Royce is going to try to take over Brick's position, which, as we all know, he totally did. There's also another pretty interesting one called Bloody Ritual, where, spoiler, there's a bloody ritual, where it looks like they are making lots of sacrifices because the Abyss is hungry. After you read that, you start glitching out a few times and seeing the Cyberpsycho pop up and disappear, which is pretty creepy. And Johnny just sitting on this box made me jump because I thought it was her. Then one of the dead bodies in the freezer turns out to not be a dead body and is the Cyberpsycho that you need to take out. This was probably one of my favorite ones just because of the creepy atmosphere. Anyway, after killing all the Cyberpsychos, you go to Regina and she gives you your reward, which is a weapon mod that makes your guns non-lethal and a few other crafting things, which is pretty lackluster reward in my opinion. Oh well. I mean, it was fun and I would probably do it with no reward, but the reward you do get is pretty damn lame. There's also technically one more minor quest called Dress to Kill, where you just show up to this area, search the bodies, and get this free car. Oh, and you can get a cat. You just gotta put cat food into this bowl, and then it'll show up at your apartment and just kinda hang out there, which is neat. He is ugly as sin and doesn't do much, but now I have an iguana and a cat. My old roommate used to have a bearded dragon named Stump because he lost its tail and just had a little stump there instead. Some fun Thai lore for you. Now all that's left in the main game is to do all the NCPD stuff, which are either assaults in progress or crime reports. Assaults in progress are, you guessed it, assaults that are currently in progress. So you find the bad guys, kill them, and then there's usually a message with the tiniest bit of context to what happened, usually some gang stuff just saying like, Polly has the goods. Oh no, Polly tried to rip us off. We gotta go kill him now, or something like that. And reported crimes are basically the same thing, except you go to a location and find a message that tells you to go to another location and get to kill some people and get your reward. And there is so goddamn many of these. Just look at this shit. And I mean, they don't take that long to complete, honestly. Like 90% of them you can do in about 30 seconds or less, but damn if that's not an intimidating sight to see. But to my surprise though, some of these you could actually get iconic weapons from. And something I didn't even know until now is that you can get schematics for iconic weapons as well. And with the schematics, you actually have to craft the weapon, which I did not know. And when I checked, I actually had 2 that I could make already. And doing this, I actually got one of my favorite weapons in the game, which is pretty much the first good iconic assault rifle I got, called the something 1116, which fires explosive rounds and has a 30% chance to cause burn damage. These are probably the closest things to Radiant Quest in a Bethesda game, except they're not actually Radiant because once you finish them all, they don't come back, but I think they're about the same quality as a Radiant Quest is what I'm getting at. Basically just some busy work that gives you an excuse to go kill some stuff or whenever you run out of real quests and still want to play the game. I honestly do think that these should be Radiant though, because it does kind of suck that you can technically finish everything in the game and then just literally have nothing else to do except drive around and shoot at random people or something. Especially because they did make the races repeatable, but not any of the other combat related stuff. Anyway, I would not recommend doing every single one of these. Not at all. Unless you simply cannot get enough Cyberpunk 2077, you sleep, breathe, and eat Cyberpunk. And you're on Adderall. I think I actually thought it was 2077 by the time I finished them all. But maybe that's the point. Maybe it's a commentary on the unending grind of trying to stop crime in a place like Night City. There's always another murderer, always another thief, always another gang. There is no rest for the wicked. Or maybe it's just busy work, I don't know. Anyway, you also don't get anything special for doing every single one of them, but you do make a shitload of money. Like, I think I got over $1 million after doing them all, and I wasn't even selling most of the weapons I got since I was just breaking those down for crafting components. But that, to the best of my knowledge, is every single side quest, gig, named activity, and almost every main quest besides the last few in the main game. But now we can finally start the Phantom Liberty DLC, which to my surprise adds an entirely new location and a new ending to the game if you decide to go that route. And it's integrated into the main story of the game, so it's not something completely separate, and you could actually do it alongside the base game content. Unlike most games DLCs that usually have nothing to do with the main story of the game and just add a completely separate story. So to start this, first we have to go to the Dogtown border where there's a bunch of people outside and me and Johnny start spazzing out until Songbird finds me. But she's not actually here because she just hacked into my brain or something, which means that she could actually interact with Johnny in a way, and she cuts him off from speaking to me. She tells me that right now she's on Space Force 1 with President Myers and the plane has been hacked. And then she says that they're probably going to have to land in Dogtown, and a man named Kurt Hansen, Dogtown's commander-in-chief, is probably going gonna try to take Myers hostage, and if I help rescue her, she'll help me with my Johnny problem. She also unlocks this new skill tree for me, which is nice because I have been wondering what this is for the entire game. But you don't get perks for it in the normal way by leveling up. You actually have to find something called relic points, which you can find on these data terminals scattered around Dogtown. It's not as big as the other skill trees, but there is some cool stuff in here for every type of player. So now I need to sneak through the Dogtown border to get inside. And Songbird is apparently one of the best netrunners to ever live because she can just move around every part of this garage at will, which is pretty impressive. Eventually we make it into Dogtown, and the first thing I notice is a gun shop with this half-faced fella over here who tells me he got a weapon from a man named Brick. And I actually noticed that he sells iconic weapons, and upon looking it up, you can get iconic weapons from vendors in Dogtown that you missed before and are impossible to get now. He could also shoot flames out of his elbow, which is pretty neat. I would have put them in my palms, but that's just me. Another thing that I immediately noticed is this place is absolutely abusive to my FPS. I mean, I don't have the best computer in the world, but it's pretty good, and this place brought me into the 40s when I was usually getting between like 60 and 90 depending where I was in the main game. It does make sense because it does look like there's just a lot more stuff going on here and everything just looks a lot more lived in, which is crazy how they're already improving their world design just in the DLC, which makes me pretty excited for the sequel. I do have ray tracing on though because I think it looks real purty, but that's probably not helping my FPS. And at this store you can just straight up buy a perk point and progress towards your skill progression, so that's neat. He also sells brain dances, but it doesn't seem like you could actually watch them or anything, which seems kind of pointless, but whatever. And you can gamble your money away for some random clothing items. Come on baby, just one more time for them fresh Gucci Crocs. Eventually we make it to the top of this building and somebody shoots down Space Force 1 and almost crushes my bones. Now we have to save the president in a pretty cool sequence where you're fighting around the wreckage of the plane with all the president's robots helping you fight Hansen's men. So far, a pretty good start to the DLC. After that, I gotta lead Myers to safety as she tells me she knows Hansen is behind the hack and is probably working with Washington in some big conspiracy to kill the president in Minecraft. So she has me cut this tracker out of her so they can't find her. After taking out some dudes and sneaking her way into this car, we make it to this museum type building where there's just an ass and a half ton of ammo here, so I'm thinking there's about to be a big boss fight. And I wonder if it has something to do with this giant machine under this tarp. Turned out I was wrong because it actually helps us fight this ambush that we get hit with. But then it turns out I was right because it gets taken over and we have to escape and then fight it. You gotta fight this thing by taking out all of its weak points first, and it's a pretty fun fight. It wasn't too tough and I was able to beat it first try, but halfway through it'll send out some drones to attack you and heal the boss. But after you take out those, just finish off its weak spots and you get this chimera core that becomes a decoration at your apartment. Songbird is unreachable at this point, so Johnny finally returns, which I was actually very happy about. In the very short time that we were apart, I actually did miss the guy. Johnny tells me that while he was gone, it basically felt like he was suffocating the entire time and it was basically torture, and that's probably where Songbird is right now. Eventually we make it to the safe house we've been trying to reach, and Johnny is a little more than skeptical about this whole situation.
Sure, but seeing as we got a lull in the lead pouring down on us, listen, got a bad vibe about this. You?
Makes two of us.
Songbird, S-tier netrunner, promises a panaceum, a cure-all, then gets wiped off the map. Myers, shady politico. Got a dagger thrown at her back all the way from Washington. Who by and why? Fuck if we know. Oh, plus Kurt Hansen and this fucking SAM launcher. Just preem. Got this hot itchy feeling in my groin. Like someone's not fessed up to something.
But after getting the power on, we sit down and chillax and drink some beers, and we hear Hansen on the radio saying he's being framed for the whole thing, and then I hear the word troglodyte for the second time in my life.
Troglodyte's clever.
Then a couple goobers walk into this place at the very wrong time, and you have the choice whether to kill them or not. And honestly, I think I would have killed them almost immediately, but I kind of wanted to see what they would say and what would happen if I didn't. And if you don't, they're actually pretty chill, and they just stay in the room with you and become your little buddies. One of them also tells me about airdrops, which are crates of weapons and stuff that fall out of the sky, which we could actually find while we're in Dogtown. He also tells me that Hansen took his leg, so he is definitely not on his side. So me and the president take a nap, and luckily those two guys guys, don't slit our throats in our sleep. Songbird was supposed to be here, but she's MIA, so Myers tells me to find a man named Reed to help us, who is a sleeper agent that we need to activate with a dog whistle. I am also guessing that since I've been playing this for a couple hours and haven't seen the guy on the cover of the DLC yet, that Reed is in fact the guy on the cover, or Idris Elba as the government would call him. And we finally get to get into the Dogtown open world proper, which looks pretty great and is very dense. And Jacob is out here to tell me about an airdrop coming in and says that this one is all mine. Also, Mr. Hands gives me a call to tell me that he has some new gigs for me, and he put my name in the system so I can come and go into Dogtown as I please, plus he gives me a free car. On the way to the airdrop, I discovered this broken down robot, so I repaired it, only for it to immediately start attacking me, and I had to put down my own creation. Womp womp. So I head up to that airdrop, and it definitely gives you a nice sense of verticality in Dogtown that wasn't necessarily absent in the main game, but it feels more pronounced in the DLC, which I'm hoping will be a common theme throughout the entire thing. But you don't just get this loot for free, because you gotta take everybody else out who's trying to get their hands on it as well, and when you do, you have to jack in and get your reward, which is full of various loot. And from what I understand, you could actually get iconic weapons from some of the drops as well, and they just spawn randomly in Dogtown whenever you're running around, which I guess is technically an infinitely repeatable task you could do, which, like I said earlier, is something that I think is missing from the main game. Also, Coach Fred, who gave me the Beat the Brat missions from the main game, messages me to tell me that there's a boxer named Aaron who could use my help in Dogtown. And I know I've already said this, but man, this place looks good. Like, it kind of reminds me of Fallout 4 in a way, with the destroyed buildings and just really dense environment full of broken apart concrete and trash just scattered around everywhere. It's definitely very distinct from the main game, which has a pretty clean architecture most of the time, and very rarely do you see buildings that are like falling apart or anything like that. Also, it didn't take too long to get one of those iconic weapons in my second airdrop that I found, having to climb up this extremely tall broken down building, being this cool tech revolver that they supposedly stopped manufacturing due to humanitarian concerns. On the way to find Reed, I run past this gig for Mr. Hands, who tells me that there's a poor Ripper Doc who's being hassled by the scavengers. So he's barricaded himself in this office, so I need to rescue him since he's the only physician this clinic has. So I go talk to the good doctor's assistant, who tells me that there's a girl with the scavengers who's looking for her brother, and that's why they're harassing the doctor. So I head over to the clinic, murder a few dozen people on the way in, and when you find the doctor, he's being held at gunpoint by the sister, who's demanding to know where her brother is. I was able to defuse the situation somewhat because she still beats the shit out of him, but the doctor admits that the brother was most likely gonna die, so he just let him die so he could use his parts for other patients. So there's definitely some moral ambiguity to this quest, because you could just kill the sister so he could use the brother for spare parts to help plenty of other people, or you can get him to tell the sister where her brother is so she could take the body and no other patients will be able to benefit from him even though he's already dead. So as far as gigs go, this is already one of, if not the best gig I've done in the entire game so far. To be fair, there's only like 12 gigs in the DLC, so it's not hard to make them a lot better than the main game, which had dozens of gigs. I'm still not going to go over every gig in the DLC, but just know that almost every single one of them is much better than the ones in the main game and are basically on par with the normal side quests. Anyway, I think by letting the sister take her brother, the scavengers won't retaliate against the doctor and continue to harass him, which will probably save more lives in the long run. So I continue my journey over to Reed, and the place is locked up tight, so I pay this talkative fella to tell me how to get in, and he points me to this fuse box if I follow the power lines. So I climb my way up and override the system, which unlocks the door for me. I do some investigation work until I find this telephone, which hilariously V does not know how to use, which makes sense, and Johnny has to give him some pointers. Reed eventually answers and tells me to meet him at a basketball court. After me and Johnny do some talking, eventually Reed shows up behind me and interrogates me until I show him the token that Myers gave me, and I meet him in his car. And it is, in fact, the guy from the cover of the DLC. I am a genius. I tell him that Songbird hired me and he doesn't seem too fond of her because they used to work together and he thinks that she's trouble. So we head over to the place where we left Myers at, and her and Reed talk for a while until she tells me that we need to find Songbird together. Reed also tells me that Myers left him to die because he got attacked by Arasaka and barely survived. Oof. After that, they both take off, and we're free to do as we please until she calls me for our next mission. So I decide to do the No Way Out quest that I got earlier about that boxer guy. So I talk to the bookie, who is only going to give me a measly 25 eddies for a $100 bet, so I up the ante to a whopping 300 COD points. And that's really going to put a dent in my 2 million if I lose. But I won the bet and go talk to Aaron, who looks like he boxes for the Lakers. He tells me that he's in trouble right now and needs protection from the scavs. Apparently, he used to run with the animals before he left them to box, and I need to find a Ripper doc named Demir. So I meet up with Aaron a little bit later on, where he tells me that the animals actually fixed his fights because he has a chip in his brain that forces him to lose, and a woman named Angie is responsible. So that's why we're here, to meet the Ripper doc so he can remove the chip. So I start sneaking in until I don't and just start blasting. Eventually we make it to the Ripper, who does the procedure to deactivate the chip until Angie shows up with some bodyguards, and one of them looks a lot like Razor. Anyway, I have a nice chat with her, and she tells me that Aaron owes them because they invested in the implants for him to be able to fight better, but I tell her to piss off. She also tells me that she's never actually used the chip, and Aaron will just go down on his own when he's told to. Then she bribes me with a nice payout from his next fight if I let her reactivate the chip. I refuse and swiftly kill them, because that's what happens when you tango with the best. Turns out that she wasn't lying about never using the chip though, because I confront Aaron about it and he doesn't deny it. Now we have to leave the hideout, and the doctor tells us that the scavs will let us pass now, but then this guy made it impossible for me to leave without a fight.
Get out of here before I take you out! The fuck you say to me, you little shit!
While I wait for Aaron to finish his fight, Reed calls me to tell me that the president is safe and sound, and then a little later I get a message from the animal shelter thanking me for rescuing a cat, which I never did, so I'm assuming this is code for the president, maybe, possibly. Anyway, Aaron messages me to tell me that he unfortunately lost his fight anyway, and to come meet him at the bar. So I do just that, and the server tells me that 2 other guys showed up and then they went to the back for a smoke, but when I head back there, Aaron is unfortunately dead as fuck. Damn. Another tough choice, and I almost wanted to reload my save and work with Angie so Aaron lives, but better to die on your feet than live on your knees, I suppose. At the very least, next to the alley you can see 2 animals standing by, which are most likely the guys who killed him, so I made one shoot himself in the fucking face, and I killed the other guy. Rest in peace, Aaron. Nah, fuck that. I reloaded and chose the threaten option instead, which you can only do if you killed that Sasquatch boss from that mission with the Voodoo Boys where they betrayed you a while back ago. And this way, Aaron is free from being under their thumb, and he goes to Costa Rica to fight for himself. We love a happy ending. After that, I noticed that these cars were popping up on the minimap with some goons standing by, and that's when El Captain calls me to ask me to bring him the car, and he'll tell me what's going on, which starts the Push It to the Limit quest. This is also when I realized that Dogtown is not the best to drive around in. It's not super big, but like I said before, it's very dense, which makes up for it, but also it makes it harder to drive around since there's not very many straight open roads. On the way back, we get attacked by a bunch of people, and this is apparently one of those cars that makes other cars explode when you touch it, because that's exactly what happened to this guy. Anyway, I make it to El Captain, and he calls me ugly.
Scan this, motherfucker. Gonked again. Preem looking, but useless. At least with you, it's the other way around.
But he tells me that there's a bunch of cars in Dogtown that he wants me to bring back to him, and for every car you bring back, you get a discount when buying other cars. Obviously, these cars are stolen, which is why we get attacked, but who gives a shit? But unfortunately, the feds show up, but it turns out that they're actually corrupt because he also wants a car from us. That finishes the Push It to the Limit quest, but you are welcome to steal as many cars as you want because it is unlimited. It sucks that they're usually pretty samey though. Either you get ambushed by a bunch of people on the way back, or you have a time limit, or you have the option to return the vehicle without damaging it for a bonus, or it's a combination of a couple of those things. But next I start the Balls to the Wall side quest, where I talk to a couple goons named Paco and Babs who give me some drugs and spin me a tail while Johnny mean mugs me from the back. And since I'm high as giraffe pussy, I get put in the shoes of Hanson himself while I beat the shit out of Paco while he embellishes the story according to Babs. Then we go into another story where we get ambushed by a bunch of scavs and have to fight them off. Eventually he finally gets to the point of the story, which is that a convoy had a bunch of generators that these 2 goobers stole and don't know what to do with. I decide to blame a man named Yuri, who is Hanson's right-hand man, so they can make some money and get out of working for Hanson any longer. Johnny is not happy about my decision to help, but he's kinda spitting facts though.
Not like we got better shit to do than spend precious time on some teeny bopper gang drama.
So we go to meet up with them a little bit later until Yuri himself finds me instead and discovered our plan, so I gotta murder him real quick. But searching his body, I find a message between him and Hanson basically saying that they know it was those 2 kids that we were talking to that stole the generators. So I head out to see if by the power of Grayskull that these kids are still alive, and no, Paco has been decapitated. So I reload my save and choose to contact some people I know in Night City instead so they can get some more generators to replace the ones they stole so they don't get decapitated. You could either call call River, Panam, or Rogue if you finish their quest lines, and I decided to call Panam, who says that she'll just smuggle them out of the city instead. There's actually different outcomes for each person you call, and one of them actually has you picking up some generators to replace them, and those two fools will stay in Night City after that. But I think it's just best for them to get out of Dodge and start a new life. And after a few days, they sent us a message saying that Panam got them out of Night City, and they're going to go to Kenya, and they left a surprise for me at their tent, which turns out to be an iconic weapon called Carmen, which finishes the quest. I decided to do another gig for Mr. Hands, where some woman is being blackmailed by the Voodoo Boys, who are threatening to hack her lung implants unless she cooperates, which is like the most terrifying threat ever, honestly, but maybe just don't get lung implants that need to be connected to Wi-Fi or whatever. But I sneak in there and eventually find the supplier who's bringing them some special implants. He says that they're not using them, but experimenting with them, looking for exploits, and whatever they don't use, they install into old robots. I threaten him into telling me where the guy I'm looking for is, and he helps me to beat the robots, so I let him live. After that, I find the robots in question and have to do a boss fight that I beat in like 10 seconds. Eventually, I find the guy I'm looking for, who is being worked on by a netrunner, who asks me not to kill him because he's actually extracting information from him to find out who's at the top of the food chain so he could stop the Voodoo Boys from doing all their Voodoo Boy things. He also explains to me that what he's doing will kill my client, aka the guy who paid me to kill this guy, but apparently it's for the greater good and whatnot. But like I said before, I'm not doing this for the greater good. I'm doing this because I like money, so I kill him and finish the quest. The next gig is called Waiting for Dodger, which subtly foreshadows who you'll be waiting for, where two NCPD officers need rescued because they try to strike a deal with one of Hanson's men named Dodger. So I need to go talk to one of the cops' wives to get more information first. We lay all the way back in this car while she tells me that she can't call the cops to help because the two I'm saving are basically corrupt and they were trying to work with Dodger, who is obviously a bad man. She also asks me not to kill any of Dodger's men because that'll just make things worse. So I sneak in and do my best to not kill anybody, which I was surprisingly successful at by using a lot of distraction hacks and neutralizing them. It was actually pretty fun to pull this off without just sniping half of them in the head with a silent rifle. But eventually I find Charles and Bill, who look like they just went to town on some McRibs, but it probably has something to do with the dead guy with his rib cage ripped open. Holy shit, I hope it wasn't his ribs that they went to town on. But apparently this guy swallowed a bag of drugs that they stole from Dodger, and the bag broke inside of him and he died, so they tried to get the drugs out of his body, which is why he is in the state he is in. So now we need to escape, but we have to reach their squad car in the garage first, and Johnny is sarcastic as ever.
It's official, V. Finally made it to the major leagues. League of first-class leadheads, to be precise.
So me and these two goobers have to sneak to the basement, stealthily putting everyone to sleep. I also see that some of my iconic middle school art made it into the garage. Unfortunately, Dodger shows up and wonders why they have ketchup smeared all over their face. I was not able to talk my way out of this, so I kill Dodger and his goons and we escape. Also, I did some more car missions for El Captain, and while I was back in good old Night City, I decided to grab this Guts shotgun, which is used by Rebecca in the Cyberpunk anime. And this thing is in fact so powerful that you could actually use it to keep yourself suspended in the air, which is pretty sweet. After that, Bill and Charlie finally messaged me from the Dodger quest to tell me that they opened a new business down at the Glen and they want me to come say hi. So I head over there to see Bill started Bill's Scop Wiener restaurant, and he informs me that Charlie stayed on the force, so he's on his own now. He thanks me and gives me some cash for saving him and changing his life, and that ends that. I also buy some hot dogs to support his new business and find an iconic bag of chips that permanently increases your stamina regeneration by 1%. With that taken care of, let's get back to the main quest. So I head over to this bar to meet up with Reed and a woman named Alex. And he warns me that when he almost died on that mission 7 years ago, that the cover story was that he sold out to Arasaka. But Alex didn't know that it was a cover story, so that might cause some problems. Turns out that he was right, and the lady at the bar is actually Alex using some cloaking technology. She heads outside to smoke a cigarette, probably because vapes are hackable in the future, and I follow her out there to convince her to help us look for Songbird. After a while, she says that she'll help us as long as the FIA gets her set up in Monaco so she could retire afterwards. She tells us that we need a netrunner to find a netrunner, being a blind man named Slider, who's an old voodoo boy. And Johnny is being pretty cynical about their whole friendship.
When I see those two, Reed, Alex, went through something similar myself.
Got a bond, two of them. Took maybe 4 minutes and they buried the hatchet.
See it clear as day. Any shred of friendship they've got left will fizzle out. Not right now, but soon. Could have spilled the truth years ago, stayed chums. But no, stubborn old Reed had his orders.
Anyway, I meet up with Reed and head over to the place where Slider is, but the Voodoo Boys won't let me in because I said that I was gonna kill them like I did Brigitte. Oops. So I sneak through the vents until I fall through at one point and get caught. So I overload their system before it could hack me and murder them all just like that famous blonde pop singer. Swift. I make my way to Slider, and he is obviously not happy that I just killed all his people, and he brings up the whole Brigitte thing. He also alludes to Reed having a much darker past than we might have realized. He jacks into me so he can get a look at my relic, and shit goes sideways almost immediately, and even Johnny seems to be suffering. He warns us about the Black Wall and tells us that Songbird used the Black Wall to connect with me and says that she's basically a ticking time bomb right now, and she's gonna end up fucking up the Black Wall and letting a bunch of rogue AI roam free in the net, which, if you remember earlier, is what Johnny thinks is controlling Jeff and his wife from that conspiracy mission. Despite the warnings, we convince him to restore my connection with Songbird anyway, and just like he prophesied by working with Reed, he does not make it, and Songbird appears before us. She tells us that Hansen's people tracked her down after she hacked into that chimera, but she's not in any danger as long as she does what they tell her. She also tells us that Hansen's hosting a big ol' shindig, and I need to find her there. And like I said, Slider didn't make it, and I genuinely feel pretty bad because we killed all of his men and then basically forced him into helping us, and he already knew something like this was going to happen by working with Reed. And Reed does not seem to give the slightest fuck about the whole situation, to be honest. After that, we fight our way out of the building, and Reed tells me to call up a fixer to figure out how to get into that little party that Songbird mentioned. So I call up the fixer, and he tells me to give him a few hours and he'll figure something out. Alex also messages me to ask me about what happened with Slider, and she confirms that Reed isn't really the type to give a shit about somebody like him. After a few hours, Hans messages me with the access code and we head over to the party. But first, I have to put on some appropriate attire. Hell yeah. Turns out I am not actually going to the party yet. I'm actually going to go meet up with Mr. Hands in person for the first time, but he also looks pretty fresh, so I'm glad I got fresh for him as well. He tells me that he wants to get Hansen out of Dogtown and drops some lore about him on me.
2069. Colonel Hansen led an operation colorfully called Midnight Storm. The objective? To occupy this combat zone and establish an NUSA staging ground in Night City. Soon after, the sides agreed to a ceasefire. Hansen's force was left to fend for itself. Headquarters, the public, everyone feigned ignorance, pretending Hansen and company were never here. But our good colonel decided to put down roots. He declared this combat zone an NUSA territory. In our terms, he carved out an enclave for himself and went from soldier to arms dealer overnight. Marooned he was. 2 weeks for a bullet to reach his brain, everyone thought. But his brain remained intact, and he became a force to be reckoned with. A man whose existence is a threat to many is a dangerous man indeed.
Eventually, he gives me the blueprints to the building where the party is taking place and throws some shade at Dexter Deshawn real quick. Remember him? He also tells me he has some new gigs for me as well. I send the blueprints to Reed and head over to meet up with him, and the relic starts making my brain go all fuzzy and stuff. He takes me to the basement where he reveals a little bit about his backstory and what happened back then. Alex shows up and tells me that I'm gonna need to get through some flooded tunnels to sneak into the party, so we go over the plan. Before we party like it's 2079, I'm gonna do a few more gigs and side quests real quick, starting with Talent Academy, where, shocker, some people are avoiding paying their taxes. Ew. Tax fraud, gross. So that means we need to stop these sports scouts who fly across the globe and sign contracts for promising athletes and avoid paying taxes while they're at it. So I need to get some data to prove it. Man, for all the vicious murders, stealing, and everything I've done, I think stopping somebody from not paying taxes is the only thing I morally object to. Anyway, I gotta talk to the client, and they tell me that I have to go in there and pretend to be a scout for the San Diego Shredders by talking to Victor Wilson and pretending I'm looking for a wide receiver. I talk to the receptionist and...
If I may, I suggest you start your visit at our world-class bar. Drinks are on the house.
Well then, got my first mission for you. Need you to neutralize 3 shots of tequila, stat.
And it turns out that these athletes, quote unquote, are like 12 years old and they're pumping them full of cyber mods and whatnot, which is very sad. Anyway, I head to the bar for a drink since they're free, and the bartender ends up questioning me. And the man next to me just starts absolutely grilling me, asking me questions about why I'm here and who I'm here for, and I don't have any good answers, so the security takes me out back to scan me and blows my cover. So now I have to murder everybody in the building, which is unfortunate. Eventually I make it to the director's office and find a kid named Tommy snooping around in here because he wanted to see if he made the team or not. I sit down with him and give him some brotherly advice, and he tells me where the terminal I'm looking for is. But while I'm downloading the data, Fiona walks in and questions what I'm doing here. I tell her about the whole tax fraud thing, and she obviously doesn't want to give the info to me and tries to tug at my heartstrings by saying that I would be ruining the children's future if I did this. She shows me all the trophies and achievements from all the kids they've been working with to try to convince me to leave it alone, and even uses Tommy as a bargaining chip because she says he probably won't get signed unless I do a deal with her. So she wants to strike a deal where she'll hand over the data of secondary clients to make Mr. Hands happy and keep the kids' futures bright. This is another pretty tough choice because they're definitely taking advantage of these kids and stuffing them to the brim with cyber mods and stuff, which could definitely lead to cyberpsychosis in the future, especially because you can find a message from a concerned parent that says that they're grateful for the modifications they provided, but they're causing their daughter a lot of health problems and they would like them to pay for the treatment to make her better, and they basically tell her to fuck off. But if I kill her, then none of the kids will have the future that they want, but then I find out that they sell the kids that they don't get signed to the scabs, which makes my choice pretty easy. I mean, I would have killed her anyway because she very much rubs me the wrong way, even though I technically wasn't paid to kill her, just to get the data, but she sickens me to my core, so I blew her top back and got the data and finished the quest. After that, I decided it's time to head to the party, which means I first need to put on my diving suit and go through the flooded tunnels. After I get out of those, I stealth kill a bunch of people, and the game automatically equips the silenced pistol that you got from Alex a while ago, so I feel like it is strongly suggested that they want you to stealth through these areas, so that's what I do. Then you have to lead Reed through this area by targeting all the enemies and threats, but eventually he does get caught, which I'm not sure why. And I had to kill a bunch of enemies with the sniper, and I had a feeling I probably could have done this without ever getting caught, but oh well. Anyway, I put on a fresh ass suit that I was given, so that one I bought earlier doesn't matter actually, but I head into the party anyway. And at this point, you can just walk around and listen to many interesting conversations and drink many drinks, and you could even spot Kurt Hansen himself. And at one point, I find myself in the vapors only section that smells of dragonberry banana rainbow cream. Eventually, I find Songbird to rescue her, but she tells me that she's dying just like me because of the black wall, and Hansen has the cure, so she can't just leave. She tells me that Hansen has some tech that can cure her and me, but we need to steal it from him, but then he walks up right after that and steals her away, but she can still talk to me through the link in our brains. At this point, I confront her about not really having the cure for me and not telling me about how much we would have to go through to get it, but she brushes that off and just tells me that we need to get to the neural matrix, which is in a mainframe that Hansen has locked away. So now we need to get access codes to get into the neural matrix or whatever, and we need to impersonate some twin runners to do that. Something's not adding up here, and I confront her about it, but she doesn't really reveal anything, but she does give me a shard, and we get a sweet show from the Lizzie Wizzy from way earlier in the game. After that, I meet up with Reed at the bar, and he tells me his conspiracy theory about how he actually thinks Songbird was behind Myers' plane crash from the beginning of the DLC. I give him the shard with the twins' information on it, and I buy some chips so I can do some gambling with them to gain their trust. So I head over there to rizz them up a bit, and I win my first bet, then my second bet, and then my third bet. Then she makes me all weak in the knees, and I get distracted and lose my fourth and fifth bet. And her brother seems weirdly jealous that she's flirting with me, by the way. But then I win my sixth, seventh, and eighth bet, and goddamn, this is a rush, and I hope they add full-time gambling in the sequel. At the end of it all, I bet everything I have on black and fucking win, baby. I am fully addicted now, and I'm about to sign up for Stake, which this is not a sponsor for, but if they wanted to, I will gladly get myself and my audience addicted to gambling, because I already am now. But after that, Hansen shows up and tells us that he knows who we are and that we're the ones who saved Myers. He tries to convince us to join him and says that he'll let me and Reed walk away free, but also drops the news that Songbird came to him completely on her own. After that, I cash out my chips with a hefty amount of winnings and actually get to talk to the Lizzie Wizzy in the flesh. We have a nice conversation since I helped her earlier, and she gives me her iconic headpiece. Nice. After that, I meet up with Reed, and he looks like he got the absolute piss beaten out of him. But we talk about how Hansen said that he's going to let the world know that Songbird is involved with the Black Wall if we don't cooperate. After a couple days, Reed tells me to come meet up with him and Alex for the next step. So I meet up with them, and they brief me on the next step, which is to rescue Songbird from Hansen, again. And they inform me that she's infected with something from the Black Wall, and the cure is in Hansen's possession, so we need to get to it because it could also be the cure for V. So I need to use the personalities of those twins we got to sneak into Hansen's place, but first, we need to kidnap them. We also plan on killing Hansen during this mission, so that'll be fun. But before I can make it to the tracking station for the first step, Songbird calls me to tell me to meet her at nighttime to discuss something. Weed smokers be like, I know a spot, and then take you to a deeply sentimental place to tell you melancholic stories about their past and how much they long for those days. I also confront her about her being the one behind Myers' plane going down, and she tells me that it was supposed to be a smooth operation so she can get the AI that would save our lives. Then she tells me about her plan for me and her to skip town after this next mission so she could work on the cure. I call Reed to tell him what's going on, and then head to the tracking station and find this church where I can pay to resolve myself of all my sins. Which is nice, I suppose. I find what I'm looking for, but apparently we need another station to breach the encryption key, but with my techie skills, I'm able to ping the next station remotely, so I don't have to go over there. Now I need to get this behavioral implant thingamajig, but Alex messages me for a little drink, so I decide to head over there real quick. We talk about life and her dreams of being an actor and bust it down funky style a little bit. I would just love to see the third-person view of V just dancing like he's seeing a bunch of his friends walk by and waving at each one of them individually. After that, I go to the Ripper dock, and surprisingly, Reed is here to talk to me about Songbird and how he wants to question her after we get her from Hansen. So he gives me some device that'll knock her out so he could basically kidnap her. Then this lady does her Ripper dock things to give me the implant to make me look like one of the twins. And Johnny talks to me about the choice that I need to make between Reed and Songbird.
Think one of them's trying to dupe me?
No, they're both telling the truth. I mean, might be muddy on the nitty-gritty, but their motivations are plain and clear. Survival. It's her be-all and end-all. That and she's a walking, talking nuke. The kind that keeps making mistakes, never knowing which one's gonna set her off. And Reed? Bastard and me are one and the same. If I hadn't ghosted the army, I'd have become a Reed myself. Live and die by our principles. That's the tragedy, V. Someone's gonna play victim to the other's good intentions. Try not to forget that when you're standing over that fucking overgrown neuro drive.
Reed or Songbird? What would you do in my shoes, Johnny?
I am in your shoes, dumbass. For every gonk choice you make. But I can't do dick. But honest to God, V, not fucking around? I don't know. Got no goddamn clue.
Now we gotta find those twins, so I find their car and hop in the trunk and hack into it. And to unlock a secret side mission, you have to eavesdrop on their full conversation, and they'll eventually bring up Slider and how he has a secret stash that she knows the location of. So we get to the rendezvous point, and shockingly, Alex and Reed just fucking dome them, which I did not see coming and V was not very happy about. But then you have to scan her body to get the file you heard about and get the access code we need. Alex takes the girl body and I take the gentleman's, and we head off to the stadium for the fire starter quest. Eventually we make it to Hansen, and you actually have to use the information about the guy that we're supposed to be to answer questions the way that he would. I managed to get through the conversation successfully, and we hack into the mainframe with Songbird, and apparently she plans to use this thing to just blow up the entire stadium, killing everybody inside except for us, obviously. And now we have the choice to either betray Reed or betray Songbird, and I thought pretty long and hard about this. Both of them are pretty manipulative and liars, especially Songbird in my opinion. And at first I wrote a really long paragraph about why I made the choice I did, but then I realized that the only thing that really matters is that Idris Elba is Shadow the Hedgehog, which I think is enough on its own to side with him. I mean, Reed never really pretended to be anything he wasn't, he's just loyal to the president to a fault, but Songbird has been basically manipulating you since the very beginning, and the entire reason you're even in Dogtown is based on a lie. I also got kind of sick of her whole wounded bird locked in a cage shtick because I felt like that was just more manipulation. fun. Anyway, immediately after doing that, she immediately suspects that I'm up to something and then starts going absolutely insane and turns into the scariest motherfucker I have seen in this entire game. Alex gets brutally murdered, and Songbird starts just vaporizing dudes at will. Alright, where the fuck is my last save at? Just kidding, I'm sticking with this choice this time. Unfortunately, when we arrived here, they took all of my weapons, so you kind of have to improvise for a bit, which is always fun, but you do get them back pretty quickly. And you have to fight an absolute gauntlet of enemies in one of the cooler settings so far, inside this building that's just burning to the ground all around you, which is pretty great. Eventually, we do make it to Hansen, and I have to fight off a few of his goons, and then the man himself. It's surprisingly not too difficult of a fight. He kind of just dashes at you a bunch, but with the double jumps and your own dashes, it's pretty easy to avoid. Although he can stick you with his knife at times, and then he'll just come over to you and rip it out and stab you again, which is very no bueno. But after finishing him off, you get a whopping 3 iconic weapons, including his knife, pistol, and a light machine gun, so that's pretty sick. And his pistol could actually be used in tandem with his knife to blow people's limbs off, which is a really cool idea. After that, I make my escape, Reed rescues me, and we go find Songbird, who's getting taken by the police. He calls Myers to tell her what's going on, and he tells me we need to find another netrunner to help us with this situation. But that'll have to wait, because I want to finish all the side stuff before I finish the main story in the DLC. Starting with that quest that I got from scanning that girl in the last mission called Voodoo Treasure, which just leads us to Slider's stash spot for an iconic weapon. It honestly took me like 20 minutes to find this, by the way. Next, I do a side mission called Dazed and Confused that Hans does tell me about, but it's not actually a gig for him. Apparently, a local BD celebrity named Lena Molina claims that she's been kidnapped and is being held against her will at a BD rental studio. So she's asking for a merc to come free her from her captor's clutches. How she's able to contact a merc but doesn't just call the police, I do not know. But the reason this isn't a gig for Mr. Hands is because he says he wasn't able to confirm her identity, and the data he received from her is sketchy in several places, so he doesn't want to play middleman on this one. So I head over to where she says she's being held and head into the basement, only to see this man who does not look like the picture but is claiming to be Lena Molina. My dumb, founded. My flabbers, gasted. My gob, smacked. My ass, tarnished. Then this guy tells me that this is his boyfriend and explains the situation to me. He tells me that his buddy down there is a huge fan of Lena and watches all of her brain dances, but one day while he was hooked up to one of the brain dances, they had a power surge and it fried his brain a little, so now he thinks that he is Lena Molina. Then he surprisingly tells me that his store isn't doing too well and he actually wants you to get the real Lena Molina to bring her here to get her and the fake Lena to make a BD together called Doppelgangbanger. What the fuck? And like, morally, what I would normally do is probably just kill this guy and free Tool, which is the name of the fake Lena Molina, by the way. But curiosity simply got the best of me, and I decided to go find the real Lena to see what happens. I checked out the room before I left, and I did find a note that the fake Lena wrote to the real one, and if you scan it, it says that it is soaked in tears. But interestingly, the letter also makes it sound like he's faking it, because he says that the only way he's happy is when he's pretending to be her, so he's obviously aware of what he's doing. And surprisingly, you can't confront him about this and ask him, but he doesn't give up the ruse. When I arrive to the real Lena's place, there's some people outside that don't seem like they're gonna do nice things to her, and I use my street kid charm to convince them to leave. After that, I wait for her to arrive and try to convince her to do the BD by telling her I'm a talent scout, and I use the fact that I produced that BD where we nailed that dude to the cross to convince her, which is pretty funny. So I show up to the shoot, and they're arguing because Tool thinks that he's the real Lena and finds it disrespectful that this lady would pretend. So I take over the shoot and I have a few options about how to make them play nice. And since I found that letter, I was able to make her read those lines to see what would happen, and it actually makes him snap out of it and go back to normal. And Johnny is for once impressed with the way I handled this situation. And I tell Mr. Hands what I did, and he replies like a sarcastic asshole for the first time. Fuck you too, buddy. So then I did another job for him. And after finishing that next gig, I got the achievement for finishing every gig in Dogtown. So now Mr. Hands wants me to meet up with him so he can reward me in person, which starts the Hi-Ho Silver Lining quest. So I head up to his place and he compares me to Dorothy from Wizard of Oz and says my silver slippers await. He also says that since I'm Dorothy, he's the narrator in this story and tells me to be wary of witches, wicked and good. So I head outside for my reward, which turns out to be a silver car, which is pretty neat, and just like a lot of the other ones, you can change the color if you want, but it does feel appropriate to keep this one silver for thematic purposes. And while I was messing with the colors, I get another call from Mr. Hands, and he wants me to meet up with him again, which starts the Run This Town quest. So I meet up with him, and he starts discussing how Hanson is dead now, so there's a power vacuum, and people are going to want to take control, and he wants to make sure that the right people are the ones to take control. He shows me a man named Lieutenant Colonel Bennett, who he wants to be in charge, but he's in competition with another person named Yago, and I need to meet up with him to convince him to back down. He also tells me about an assassin named Aguilar, who he already has the behavioral implant for, which we are quite familiar with using at this point, so I need to take his identity and convince Yago to back down. So I get dressed up in a very spiffy looking suit, activate my face, which is a weird thing to say, and I feel like V is gonna get canceled for some reason, but I can't quite put my finger on why. Anyway, now that I got my spy outfit, spy gun, and spy car, I head out to the meeting with the Voodoo Boys and use my unadulterated Riz to convince them to leave without a fight. Then I talk to Yago, who tells me that Colonel Bennett is actually an Arasaka pawn, and they needed to wait until Hanson died to take over his spot to take control over Dogtown, which doesn't sound very bueno. She tells me where I can get proof of this and find an Arasaka front building and confront Bennett about it, so I head over there and do just that. Damn, this game looks good. Anyway, I head into the building and neutralize Bennett's driver and confront him about Arasaka, which he admits to pretty easily, saying that they just want access to the smuggling routes, but I tell him that they really just want to take over Dogtown. I tell him he needs to cut ties with Arasaka, and then he attacks me, but he gives up after a minute. He agrees to do what I say, and I call Mr. Hands to tell him what's going on, and he tells me to go to Hanson's wake to ensure a smooth transfer of power. So I head over there, and we all discuss how Bennett will be taking over Hanson's place right over Hanson's dead body. And Bennett starts throwing a hissy fit because he wants Yago to give him all of his contacts and information and whatnot, which he does not want to do. But I pull out my strap to get them both to play nice, and they agree to work together. Call Mr. Hands, tell him that Bennett is now in charge, and he is very satisfied with the outcome, because if you do this quest differently, either one of them could have died. And another great touch is, not only have I been hearing a lot of NPCs talking about how Hanson's dead while I'm passing by, but in the loading screen, originally you would hear Hanson talking, but now that he's dead and Bennett's taking over, you could hear him talking instead, which is pretty cool.
Attention Dogtown. This is Ben. Colonel Kurt Hanson is dead. I repeat, Kurt Hanson is dead.
I also got a message from Shank, who was Tool's friend from that Lena Molina quest, saying that he's doing much better now. That's nice. I also don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but there are new tarot cards in Dogtown, but I collected them all throughout my journey so far. And just like before, I bring them to Misty, and they all seem to foreshadow the main characters and possible endings I could receive from the DLC, kind of like the ones from the main game. Alright, a couple more side missions, then I can finish the last few missions in the DLC, and then finish the last few missions in the main game, and finally finish this very long video. First one is called Shot by Both Sides, where there's a journalist named Bree Whitney who says there's some corporates on her tail and needs my help, but declined to give me any further details. So now I need to head over to Bree's apartment to get a key and a bamboo plant, and my lack of plant knowledge seems to amuse Johnny.
Huh. What's this?
Really, dickweed? That looked like a bamboo to you.
Kiss my ass.
Eventually I find the plant and a strange Militech card, and Mr. Hands tells me to go meet up with Bree, but as I'm leaving, a concerned neighbor actually scares the shit out of me and asks me what I'm doing here. I tell him that I'm just watering the plants, and he says he saw some shady looking thugs around her apartment and hasn't seen Bree in a long time, so he was just worried. So I head over to her location, and she also scares the shit out of me. Scariest quest in the game so far. She leads me through the building and asks me to scan for threats, and I confidently say that I know what I'm doing, and then 2 seconds later get caught by a camera about 3 feet away from my face. After that, you gotta disarm some more cameras and trip mines, which would be a whole lot more effective if there wasn't a giant red laser pointing out of every single one of them. Also, on all the computers, you can learn that this place hasn't been active since 2017, and they were working on some type of single element cooling system until something went wrong and they had to close down the site and evacuate. But more importantly, one of the employees got a ticket to a Johnny Silverhand concert. We make it to the main computer and find out that they came back in 2017 2068 to try to reopen the project and breach the Black Wall and use a rogue AI to augment some weapons. Basically something like Soul Killer, except Militech would be in control of it. Before we leave though, it turns out that concerned neighbor from earlier was actually a Militech special agent. He tells me that Bree here also worked for Militech, and anybody who touches this project ends up dying because of her, including me probably. And she's either in Arasaka or Netwatch's pocket. I don't really give a shit though, so I kill him. Both of them seem pretty shady honestly, and they're both probably using me, but Bree hired me, so sucks for Dante. Also, apparently Dante is based on a Polish singer with some Polish name that I can't pronounce that created the main theme for the Phantom Liberty DLC, so that's neat. Anyway, Bree thanks me for saving her and says that she's gonna write an article about what she found and sends me on my way. And a few days later, Mr. Hands texts me to let me know that Yago and Bennett are working in tandem and Dogtown has never been so well run, so I guess we made the right choice. And then surprisingly, Aguilar, the guy that we were imitating, messages me to basically say that he's gonna find me one day and see if I can match up to the original, which I truly did not see coming. And then, just like Dante said would happen, Bree did in fact sell us out in her article, and now Netwatch is coming after me. And did you know that there was an iconic weapon on top of this giant pyramid? Now you do. The last mission I get is when a girl named Ashley, or Ashley, messages me saying that she did some digging in the net to find me and sees the various crimes I've committed. And she says if we set things right, I can get back the premium ride I jacked. What ride she's referring to, I have no idea. She tells me that she just wants me to wipe the car's databanks and it's all mine. I arrive to the spot, and from her text messages, it seems like she is just the quirkiest little gal. She wants me to sneak in, so I hopped on the back of this truck and rode my way through. I get some more messages from her, and the way she talks reminds me of Tiny Tina from Borderlands or something, which, depending on who you are, you might think is really funny or extremely cringe. I personally don't mind since she's the only one that talks like this in the entire game, but I think this game would be much, much worse if everybody was a quirky Borderlands character. But I get in the car, do the thing, and we escape the facility and finish the quest without ever actually meeting Ashley, which was surprising. She sends me some more quirky texts and then changes her number. That was random. Anyway, time to finish up the DLC story. Depending on who you've helped throughout the game, you can call 4 different netrunners or Mr. Hands himself to ask for help. And some of them do have special rewards and whatnot, but I've been working with Mr. Hands so much lately that I feel like he's kind of integral to Dogtown, so I decided to call him. He does try to charge you 15,000 V-Bucks at first, but if you've done all of his gigs, then he'll only charge you 10, which is like nothing. He sends me to a woman named Yoko, which you probably don't remember since she was one of the very first missions that we did at the beginning of the game to get some free cyberware. This is also when I learned that T-Bug died, which I guess was pretty obvious since during the heist mission, she said that she was compromised and then screamed a horrific scream, and I have not heard from her since, but this was the first time that I've seen it confirmed anywhere. Then Johnny says a pun about Max Tech that was so stupid that it actually made me laugh.
I know that data's cause enough for Max Tack to max murder.
They'll have to get in line.
I send Reed the details and we meet up to take out this convoy to rescue Songbird. And you do get a little bit of a choice about how to set up the ambush as well. You could choose either turrets or mines. I chose turrets. And you could choose where to set them up. And you can choose whether to use smoke grenades or not. After that, I talked to Reed, who is obviously still stressing about what happened to Songbird, since she is probably not the same person he knew anymore since the Black Wall is messing with her brain. Then we start the ambush and Songbird contacts me to tell me that she's still pretty pissed, obviously. And the ambush was actually pretty easy, like surprisingly easy for all the setup we had to do. But then I go to rescue Songbird until some military goons strapped to the gills get out of the truck and I have to fight them 4-on-1, which was actually the hard part. Surprisingly, I didn't die, but this was definitely one of the toughest fights in the entire game. After that, Reed gets hurt and I chase Songbird down by myself and eventually make it to this building that she tore apart after escaping Max Tech. Me and Johnny talk about the deep shit that I'm gonna get myself into if I go down there, but I make the leap anyway. Turns out that I am in a top secret military base, and surprisingly, Johnny brings up Bree from that mission we literally just did before this. And at this point, the game turns into an absolute horror movie as we talk to Songbird. And the entire atmosphere and vibe of this mission is just fantastic. There is nothing else like it in the entire game. Like, there hasn't really been any other thing that's supposed to be scary in this game, maybe other than like that one Cyberpsycho from a while ago and some jump scares since I'm a pussy, but this is just straight straight up a horror game right now. Even the doors down here open up really, really slowly just to make you wonder what you're about to see on the other side. Eventually, she starts showing you her memories, showing you that Hansen was really using her and she didn't know what he was gonna do. And then you continue the scariest shit you have ever done in this game.
She tried to stop me. Now it's late. Too late.
Even dying is scary as shit. And at this point, it takes quite a while, but you have to run around the facility while being stalked by this robot thing and hack a bunch of things and blow up some other things and eventually turn off the core that Songbird is inside of. After that, you get attacked by the robot and see many visions of Songbird's past, making me feel pretty bad about choosing Reed over her.
Some days, I'd open the window, sit on the sill, and just listen to the street sounds. You know, life happening. It was somehow soothing, that. Now I can't hear, I can't feel anything. Can you?
Should I? Saw other visions, illusions before this.
Illusions?
Saw you with Reed, Myers. Saw your past. Don't remember?
No. The black wall consumes me all. The emptiness grows. I feel it. Fill it with memories. They keep taking them away. I made so many mistakes. Did terrible things. But here, back then, they never mattered. I gave myself one last chance, and you stripped me of it. Why?
So back then, thought I was making the right call.
The right one? Whom for? You? Reed?
Everyone involved.
Win-win decisions don't exist, let alone three-way wins. At time's the right choice, the brave one, is what's best for you alone.
Sorry, So-Mi. I am. Wanna help. Tell me how.
I know what I've done. Know the price I've paid. What you don't know is how sorry I am. How much it all hurts.
So-Mi.
Then you have to go into the core and finally confront the real Songbird. And I don't get goosebumps often, but this part gave me goosebumps.
V. It's good you're here. Second chance. I never really got it, did I?
Ain't over yet. Just hold out a little longer.
You know, that's not true. I see it on your face.
So-Mi.
I'm fading, V. Help me out.
So-Mi. I
tried on my own. Don't have the strength. Please. End it.
And now you had the choice to either kill Songbird or force her to live and make her basically be a slave to President Myers. It took me a while to decide, and I felt pretty bad about betraying her in the first place at this point, so I decided to honor her last wish and free her from her cage and let her die in the way she wants. Reed comes in and he is pretty upset, but he understands. At least he did at first, because after that he says that he wishes it was him down there instead so he could have convinced her to live. Then I talked to President Myers again, who is obviously very upset that we failed her mission. And damn, this shit is just so good. It really made me feel lots of regret for my choices that I made, wondering if I did the right thing and wishing I could just go back. But that is the end of the DLC. V does not get the cure, Alex died, Songbird died, and Reed is depressed that he didn't get to save her. And me and Johnny talk about what happened. But after that, Reed messages me and actually shows a little bit of change.
So what's this about?
You were right. I wanted to tell you in person. You were right, V.
Need to be more specific. What exactly was I right about?
V, I almost lost everything because of you.
Fuck, Reed.
Don't talk. Just listen. I lost partners, friends, the trust of my superiors. Everything I believed in, built my life on, gone in seconds. All because I believed you'd help me save Somi.
Why do I get the feeling you still blame me for everything?
Because I do. But given what happened, V, well, I'm starting to see the other side of all this shit. That's why I said I think you were right. I got nothing to lose now. I might be able to gain something for once, though. All because of you, or thanks to you. Not sure which is more fitting.
So, what'll you do now? Plans, schemes, what?
Washington beckons, likely for a stern audience with Her Majesty, then relegation to a desk at Langley. Maybe scribbling on whiteboards, flipping through slides, feeding fresh recruits horseshit, among other humiliations. They already booked me to Red Eye and see the DC Direct.
Plan to get on it?
Good question. Should I?
Yeah, you should. Just remember our talks. And remember Somi.
I failed her as a mentor. Maybe even as a friend.
It's why you won't make the same mistakes again. You'll be a preem teacher.
You're trying to flatter your way into a gig at Langley. Just so we're clear. Over my dead body.
Please. I'm a shit agent. Way too many secrets, shifting loyalties. Just nah.
I don't know what I'll do. And I'm all right with that. Forgot how that felt, but I really fucking missed it. So thanks.
Don't sweat it. Buy me a Broseph sometime.
I'm afraid there won't be a next time. You know that. Take care, V. I'm gonna hang back a little.
But now, since I need to get all the endings to get all the achievements, I go back a little bit and decide to give Songbird over to Myers. This time, it's pretty similar, except Songbird is pretty upset that we kept her alive, but Myers is much happier now that she'll get to use her as a weapon forever. But the biggest change is, now that we fulfilled our end of the deal, they will finally cure V. You can text all your friends to tell them that you're going to be gone for a bit, but before going through with it, Johnny basically begs V to find another way because this will essentially be killing him for a second time.
Say you told the FIA to stick their offer where the sun don't shine. Just don't make the call to Reed. We'll find another way.
Do what now?
Message. Didn't see it? They want to wipe me. Need me to explain the ins and outs?
Come on, you knew I'd fight for my life to the end, no matter the price. It's obvious to you as it was to me.
Call me a chump, but I never thought I'd be that price. Come on, V. Don't make the call. So this is how it ends.
Sorry, Johnny. I am. Just... FIA's powerful. Gives me the best chance.
I get it. I do. Your choice to make. Not mine. Just need a moment to think.
And we hear V's real name for the first time in the entire game.
There it is. Night City. At your feet. Was it always that small? Or did you just get too big for it?
It was a long road. But I fucking made it.
Fought long, fought hard, V. You deserve this. It's okay, V. You're allowed to be a little proud of yourself.
So you saying you and me, we're good?
Made our peace at the oil fields. Nothing's changed since then. Just glad you'll pull through, and that I got the chance to call you my friend.
Wonder how things would have turned out if we'd never met.
First, bullet to the brain would have ended you on the spot. Second, would have never survived the rest without my expert advice.
And no, you're kidding. That's actually true. You saved me.
Relic was your life support. But what saved you was courage. The will to survive. Us meeting? Coincidence. Shit we went through together, though. That's what counts.
I've got readings spiking. Strong emotions. Let's do this. We want your brain burden-free. Never know how stress might affect it.
Think this is it, kiddo?
Guess so.
Promise me one thing, will ya?
I promise. No idea what, but I promise.
Not asking you to never give up. Sometimes, you gotta let go. Just don't let anyone change who you are, okay?
Johnny.
Good night, Vincent. Today was a good day.
Eventually, you wake up from your surgery, and it was a success. Kind of. It turns out that you are no longer able to install any kind of implants, making V basically useless in combat. And on top of that, he's been in a coma for 2 years. You can see a bunch of texts from all the friends you've made along the way, wondering where you went. And you can call them, but tragically and unexpectedly, they've all moved on with their lives without you, and Panam won't even pick up the phone. The only person that you can still go visit is Victor at his and Misty's shop, but it's had a bit of a makeover from the last time you visited. During the ride with Delamain, you find out that Yorinobu isn't quite the leader he thought he would be. On the way to Victor, some goons will give you a hard time for not being around here because nobody knows who you are anymore. But at least Victor is happy to see you, even though he's depressed about what happened to his shop. He attempts to fix you so you can install implants again, but it doesn't work. On the way out, you run into those goons again, and I try to get them to back off by mentioning Padre, but apparently his name doesn't carry much weight anymore because they beat the shit out of V anyway. V, the same man who was a one-man army just a couple of years ago, can't even fight a couple street thugs. Damn. After that, Misty finds you and you guys talk about your future and what happens next. And for the first time since the beginning of the game, we actually get a cutscene that shows V, or the shell of V, as he walks down the street with a slight smile to just become another face in the crowd. The exact opposite of what he wanted at the beginning of the game. Damn, what a sad ending. V basically lost everything. His implants, his friends, his respect, Johnny, and now he's just another random NPC in the streets. It's a pretty powerful ending, but it was heavily implied by a few characters that V made some bad choices to get here, and he could have done better, so hopefully there's some happier endings than this, because besides death, I don't think things could get any worse for V. So now I'm going to go back into the DLC and side with Songbird this time. And instead of Alex getting murdered, she actually kills Hansen in a pretty sick, brutal, nasty way, and when she realizes you betrayed them, she screams at you pretty horrifically. Now instead of escaping solo dolo, you and Songbird escape together, and you can use her to do some cool things like chop up some people with some helicopter blades and whatnot. Eventually we escape into this homeless camp, and Songbird gets a car and says that we need to split up for now until she finds a way to get out of Night City. Reed calls me to tell me I am a disappointment. Dad? Eventually, Songbird contacts me to tell me where to meet her, so I head over there to find her in pretty rough condition. She takes us to the spaceport where she has a flight set up to finally get out of here. So we head over there to do that job, and fun little fact for you. You can find a Alien vs. Predator Easter egg on the top of the spaceport where you find an invisible enemy with mantis blades that runs away from you and eventually disappears. And you can find a note called Message to B that's similar to a speech from the movie. After that, I head into the spaceport and for some reason decided it would be a good idea to threaten the security guard because he wants to disable my implants and he immediately tases me, so I reload. Also, that makes me think why every other place that takes your guns doesn't also do this, because it's the first time that somebody also wanted to disable my implants. Because I always thought, like, yeah, you took my guns, but I could have fucking blades for arms and grenade launchers in my wrist and hack a man into killing himself. Also, some random dude recognizes me from beating the shit out of Razor and asks me to take a picture, and surprisingly you can see Johnny. So I take a very normal picture with him and continue my mission. Now I have to sneak my way into the Tycho terminal, and I wasn't able to open any of the grates due to my technical ability, and despite distracting this guard with the vending machine, he still somehow caught me, so I really wasn't sure what to do for a while. But eventually Songbird tells me about a suitcase that has a guard outfit in it, so I slap that puppy on and just walk on through. I was told that the security robots and cameras would still see through my disguise, but luckily I found this computer I could hack into that gives me the correct credentials, so I can just walk through unnoticed. I make my way to the roof and pull Songbird up with a fire hose, but unfortunately, Reed and Myers herself show up to stop us. And Myers is very disappointed in Reed at this point. Eventually, we make it down to the spaceport where the Noosa and spaceport folk are fighting each other for some reason. Then we have to fight our way through dozens and dozens of enemies, and then dozens and dozens of more enemies. Then you fight dozens and dozens of more enemies, but while protecting Songbird this time while she calls a train, until eventually we use the black wall to just kill everybody at once. And while carrying Songbird to the train, you get to use the power of the black wall to just instant kill anybody in your sight, which was pretty cool. Songbird admits that she kind of respects Myers in a way, and that she wishes she could just fall asleep and never wake up, which makes sense from that other ending. And then she drops a bombshell on us, saying that not only did she betray Reed, but she also betrayed us because the cure for us can only be used once for one person. So since she lied to me, I decided to call Reed to come take her away. Reed comes to pick her up, and it seems that they wanted to kill me, but Reed told them not to. After handing her off, the credits roll, and Reed calls me a couple days later to come meet up with him at the gas station this time. Me and him have a quick talk, and then me and Johnny have a talk. And after that, it'll end the same way the last one did, where you'll get the surgery and be in a coma for 2 years, except this time, Alex gets to live. So if you did want to side with Reed and keep Alex alive, I guess your best bet would be decide to go with Songbird first, and then turn her over to Reed at the end. After that, I loaded back once again to pick Songbird. And now Reed still steps out, but this time he won't listen to reason, so I have to kill him.
Need the cure and the Rippers who know how to use it. Mention contacts in Europe. Personal ones.
In Europe, at Langley, too. The NUSA specialists are top of the game. They'll pull the data for you, then operate. Do we have a deal?
Not giving her up, Saul. No. Fuck. Fuck. Fuck.
You had no choice. But your friend there will join Reed in the Beyond if you don't hurry your ass.
After that, I strap Songbird in, me and Johnny have a talk, and she gets sent to the moon, and the credits roll. After a few days, Alex will call you to come meet up with her at the bar. So I head over there and see a news broadcast about what I just did. And then Alex tells me that her last assignment is to kill me, and I give her the token Myers gave me so she can prove that she did her job. We have a toast to Reed, and she tells me she'll let me live, hoping that the relic will kill me anyway. After a few days, I get a message from an unknown number that says to return to the place that reminds reminds me of home and see what you find. So I head over to the location, and it turns out to be the place that Songbird had you meet her at a while back ago. And all you find here is a souvenir that shows you that it is in fact from Songbird, and a quantum tuner mod. She even says that somebody, but doesn't say who, is the one who orchestrated her entire escape to the moon, and it's assumed to be Mr. Blue Eyes. What this all means, I have no idea. Mr. Blue Eyes is an entire rabbit hole himself and a lot to get into, so I would suggest looking him up yourself if you want to know what he's all about, because it's very interesting. And that is it for the Songbird ending and all the endings in the DLC. So I load back my original DLC ending where I sided with Reed and killed Songbird at her request so I can continue the main story to find another cure, since Myers wouldn't help me after letting Songbird die. And now I continue the Nocturne 5-5-1 quest and go meet up with Hanako. I get told that this is the point of no return and should take care of any unfinished jobs or gigs or anything like that I need to do before this, but we've already taken care of everything. She tells me that apparently everybody already knew that Yorinobu killed their father the entire time. She also says that Mikoshi is under Arasaka Tower right now, and she wants me to get rid of her brother Yorinobu in exchange for getting rid of the relic in my head. Not by killing him, but by outing him in front of the Arasaka folk. After our talk, the relic starts making me all wonky again, and Johnny wants to take over my body to get to Mikoshi with Rogue without Hanako's help. I pass out and end up at Victor's place, and he tells me this is my last chance, and I need to take care of this now or never. Misty takes me to the roof to make my final decision, which is the same place where I get picked up to get the surgery in the DLC ending.
Fucking scared me, know that? Thought you were on your way out.
No, still here.
For now. You know, should call anyone you want to say goodbye to.
Worst case scenario. That what you expect?
No. But whatever you decide, risk's gonna be high. If things don't go our way. Just fucking do it. Anyone you gotta talk to, now's the time. Pills can wait.
I make a call to Panam to tell her what's going on, and she wants to help. But after that, if you want to get the secret ending that I set up a while ago with Johnny at the oil field, you have to say that you think Johnny and Rogue should go, and then wait a few real-life minutes before Johnny will speak up and offer another solution where you and him will go on a suicide run together. You ask him about his plan, and he tells you that this is what it takes to be a legend, which has always been what you and Jackie have wanted from the very beginning. So you and Johnny, in the most badass way possible, just straight up waltz through the front door of Arasaka Tower with no plan, no backup or anything, and have to make it all the way to Mikoshi by yourself. And taking this route, you have to kill tons and tons of enemies with 0 save points, and if you die at any point, you get credits. But we ain't going out like that, because I gotta see this through to the end. This time I prepare a little bit better by bringing a lot more ammunition and try to be a little bit more careful, since I didn't know I'd be sent all the way back to the beginning. I also noticed that my health was basically cut in half, which I thought was a glitch, but it's actually intentional. At the start of the mission, you lose 25% max health and then another 1% every time the relic glitches, which really sucks because this mission is hard. And like I said, there's no save points until you get to the boss, which is pretty tough on its own, but then the boss is the Atom Smasher. Yeah, we finally get to fight him, and it's hard as fuck. He moves around at light speed and constantly shoots grenades at you and has an absolute assload and a half of health. And about halfway through the fight, he calls some goons to fight with him, which you also have to deal with while he's trying to push your shit in at the same time. I also made it harder on myself because I had to make sure that I finished him off with Johnny's gun for thematic purposes, which I managed to do, and it felt pretty damn good.
Hurry to Mikoshi before they launch another attack.
Johnny Silverhand sends his regards.
Are you fucking with me now?
He's got a point, V. Shut up and finish him. Be done with it.
Took down Johnny's archenemy. Gotten good, I guess. Damn, it feels nice.
The funniest part about this, though, is that Adam Smasher doesn't even know who the fuck Johnny is. To Adam Smasher, Johnny is just some random guy that he killed like 50 years ago, but to Johnny, Adam Smasher is his nemesis, who he kind of just imagined he had this great rivalry with, even though Adam Smasher doesn't really give a shit about him. After that, I walk over to Jack into Mikoshi while Alt talks to me, telling me lots of things I don't understand, and it's obvious V is not doing well and is on his last legs, considering he keeps falling over. And the relic is literally taking my health away during this mission. I sit down with Johnny where he tells me that Alt has already split our personalities, which means that I'm an engram now, just like Johnny. Which means that I'll be put back into my own body as an engram, but unfortunately, Johnny has already taken over so much that I'll be seen as an intruder in my own body and only have about 6 months left to live. And Johnny will go with Alt to live beyond the Black Wall, whatever that means for him. Or you could let Johnny have your body since it's kind of his now and you can go with Alt. But after some deliberation, I decided to keep my own body and say goodbye to Johnny forever and live out however much time I have left.
I said I wanted you to have my body. But I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. We knew all along this is how it would play out.
Don't fuck with me right now.
Only if you cut your pathetic "I'm sorry" bullshit.
I mean, Jesus. I'm about to shred a comrade and a chunk of my own soul in one fucking go. Got no idea what that shit feels like.
Sounds kind of familiar. We know that attitude. CV, stand with you whether you like it or not.
For fuck's sake, defend yourself. You're not even trying.
You know, you taught me to let go sometimes. Save my strength for one last big bang. Goodbye, V. And never stop fighting.
I wake up in some random room, take my necklace and go to the shower where, surprisingly, Panam is there. She's angry with me because she has to leave with her clan and wants me to go with her, but I have one more job left to do in Night City. And according to her, everybody at the afterlife is eating out of the palm of my hand, which means that I must be the legend that I've always wanted to be. But it doesn't feel so great at the moment, especially considering I still don't have much time left to live due to the damage from the relic. But after saying our goodbyes, I hop into the Delamain chopper, and according to him, Arasaka ain't doing too well. He drops me off at the afterlife so I can do the last quest called Path of Glory, where when I arrive, the bouncer calls me boss, and Rogue says that everything that goes on here is my mess now. She also tells me that we're doing some type of heist, and for once, I get to take a drink to myself, so I can finally get a drink named after me, which is really what this was all about, you know. I head over to the mystery client who's hiring me to do this, and it shockingly turns out to be Mr. Blue Eyes himself. Turns out that everything has come full circle because we're going back to Arasaka for another heist, except this time we're robbing the Crystal Palace in motherfucking space. But what's extremely disappointing is we don't actually get to play the mission, and we just see a cutscene of V heading out into space for his last job to truly become a legend of Night City. it's somewhat ambiguous if V is going to survive or not. But in my opinion, especially since we saw the ending with Songbird where she goes to space with a mysterious contact that is presumed to be Mr. Blue Eyes, that he might be able to cure V if he doesn't die during this mission. So maybe this heist is about stealing some tech to save V, or put his engram in a new body so he can keep living or something. I could be totally off base here, but that's just how I interpreted it. Or V just wants to honor Johnny's memory like how Rogue mentioned right before we left, and the best way to honor him is going out in a blaze of glory just like he did. Who knows? Not me. I do really like this ending though, regardless of the ultimate fate for V, because he has always wanted to be a legend, and that's what he finally did. And according to him, it's pretty obvious he only has a few months left to live anyway, so at least he gets to go out on his own terms if he does die. And unlike the other ending I got, this one isn't sad as fuck. All your friends still call you and remember you and like you, besides Takamura. Anyway, I loaded it back again, so this time I could let Johnny take my body, which he is very surprisingly against.
What I told you at the Pista Sophia, we stick to that. I'll go. You stay.
Turning your back on the problem again? What? A little guilt creeps in and that's that? You give up?
Stop. Just stop.
Gonna just roll over instead of fighting for what's yours? Decommiss yourself because you're too fucking scared to say goodbye?
It's my decision. Let me make it.
You're loyal, grant you that. But damn it, are you tense? Haven't changed a bit since we met.
I'm so damn tired, Johnny. I just want to start anew. Even if I don't know what that means. It better be good for you, too.
V, I'm just scared for you.
I'll see you around, Johnny.
After that, I cross over into the Black Wall. Then you wake up in some random room again, but this time you are permanently Johnny in V's body. You could read the messages from all your friends worried about you, especially Panam, who knows that it's Johnny in control now and is pretty pissed about it. And it's clear that Johnny still really misses V.
Shit, gotta pack too. And I gotta stop talking to you, V. Got a bit of time. Think I'll manage to swing by and visit you.
Eventually, we find this young boy named Steve, who Johnny seems to know, who is sadly getting abused by his father. And it almost seems like Johnny is mentoring this kid since he's trying to learn how to play the guitar and whatnot. He gives me a ride to the guitar shop while we talk about how to make him a better musician, and eventually arrive to buy a guitar. You can choose between the red or blue one, but I don't think it really matters too much, so I picked the red one because I thought it looked cooler. After that, we head over to the cemetery to pay respects to V and give back the bullet that shot him in the head and started this entire journey. I talk to Steve and take a cigarette out of his mouth, which is ironic coming from Johnny, but he's obviously grown and changed as a person. Johnny says his goodbyes and then gets on the bus to leave Night City forever.
Stop the bus! Hey! Get off! Wait! The guitar! You forgot your guitar!
No, I didn't. Haven't forgotten a thing. Never will.
This was another pretty bittersweet ending, and not something I would have chose for myself if I could only pick one, because as much as I do like Johnny, this should be V's body, even if he only has a few months left to live. And even Johnny agrees with that, because he did not want V to give him his body. And some of the messages, like from Saul and Mitch, don't really seem to make sense in this ending, because you'd think that Panam would tell them that V is dead now. So I load back once again, and this time, instead of doing a side run with Johnny, I decide to agree to call Rogue to help and let Johnny take my body for the final assault. So I take the pills to let Johnny take over and head to the afterlife to talk to Rogue and convince her to help me attack Arasaka. And after some resistance, we surprisingly start making out, and then she agrees to help me. After that, we go over the plan, which goes a little bit different than this run with Johnny, since, you know, we actually make a plan and not just walking in the front door. And apparently we're gonna have to knock a comm site out of orbit, which is pretty neato. And she also mentions a mysterious benefactor who is probably Mr. Blue Eyes. But I also have to convince Ult to help, so I hop into cyberspace to talk to her and convince her to take down the satellite. And upon talking to Rogue again, she reveals that she has a son, which was really surprising for some reason. Then we hop into the helicopter to get a good look at the city and see the satellite go down. Unfortunately, shit goes sideways and we start getting shot at. We crash land, but our pilot didn't seem to make it with us, so now we have to go rescue him. So we take out some guards, and I find an iconic shovel weapon, which is pretty funny. And this is probably the first time that I've walked through like a forest looking area in the game, which is a pretty surreal vibe. But we rescue our man and fight our way through the tower, plug in Ult, who starts taking out everybody all at once, Songbird style. Eventually we make it to the bottom of the tower and get attacked by Atom Smasher just like before, except this time he takes somebody's life in the process. So we kill him once again, but this time with 20% more vengeance in mind. After that, it's basically the same as it was before, except now it's Johnny talking to V. You still have the choice whether to pick Johnny or V to take over the body, but the endings are the same as they were before. But now to do something completely different by going back and siding with Hanako this time. Well, actually, real quick, I noticed another option that says we could also just put this all to rest, which is probably one of the worst endings, because V just straight up fucking blows his brains out right there. And the end credit messages are basically the same as if you did the secret ending to Storm Arasaka with Johnny and ended up dying in the process. But I go back and choose Arasaka this time, and Johnny is not too pleased with this decision, obviously. Yorinobu is holding Hanako hostage basically because she thinks he might know that we're up to something, so I need to go rescue her. Misty gives me a reading while I wait for my ride, and she pulls out the Devil card, which doesn't sound too good and probably symbolizes the deal I'm about to make with Arasaka. Takamura and Hellman come to pick me up, and Hellman has his suspicions about letting Johnny come back to Arasaka Tower again. Eventually we make it to the place where Hanako's being held and have to sneak our way in by killing some elite guards and all that jazz. We take her on the plane, where V realizes that he lost his sense of taste, and Hellman tells him that his sight and hearing will go next, so sadly I won't be able to enjoy the cool, refreshing taste of an ice-cold Dr. Pepper. And then I set this champagne down on the most unstable looking cup holder I have ever seen. Eventually she takes me through the tower, where we go to her father's office, and then down into a secret room where it turns out that they also put Saboro's personality into an engram, and he talks to me through it. He doesn't say much, but Hanako grabs his engram and we head upstairs and see Oda, which was Takamura's friend that we had the choice to fight earlier and choose to let live. After that, we go to the board meeting in front of Arasaka so I can give my testimony. She shows them the engram, and Saboro tells everybody to listen to Hanako. Unfortunately, Yorinobu sends some goons in to fight us, and I have to find him myself now. After fighting my way through the guards, I have to fight Atom Smasher once again and then confront Yorinobu. And he tells me, among a lot of other things, that he basically wanted to destroy Arasaka from the inside and do what Johnny couldn't, which kind of puts him in a whole new light. And as me and Hellman are leaving, it almost looks like Hanako was putting Saboro's engram inside of Yorinobu, which is fucking crazy. Then I end up in that same space that I've been to many times before, but this time without Ult. And Johnny's mad. After that, I wake up from surgery, which seems to have been a success. Except no, your screen is not messing up. Everything in the game is just kind of purple now. I go to sleep and hear Johnny's voice, and they confirm that they did put Saboro's engram into Yorinobu. Then I take some tests, can't solve a 4x4 cube, fall off a treadmill, and have a vision of Jackie. I wake up to see some people that are angry about what Saboro did, and still can't solve the cube and fall off the treadmill again. That's when I realize that I'm actually in space right now, and I can call my friends back at home, but either they don't answer or they don't care to talk to me. It's kind of ambiguous about how much time has passed at this point. I go back to sleep and finally get my color back, and I solve the cube. about that. Anyway, more news about Yorinobu, and surprisingly, Myers gets mentioned. And then I get a compilation of many, many days passing doing the exact same thing over and over, until Takamura finally shows up to tell me the bad news.
I am sorry to say it is not good. I will be blunt. The surgery did not help. You will be dead before winter.
How's that possible? Arasaka's got the best and brightest.
No. The operation was a success, and that is why. But the changes the chip made were too great, even for the corporate neurosurgeons.
This is fucking Arasaka. They should figure something out.
You must accept the truth, then listen to what I say. There are options.
What are you talking about? Trusted you all once already. You let me down.
You may join the Secure Your Soul program. Hanako Arasaka has agreed to it. You will leave your body. Arasaka will store your engram in Mikoshi until a way is found to transfer it to a new body.
Store? Can't I get a new body right off?
With technology as it is now, this is impossible.
Seemed pretty damn possible for Saburo Arasaka.
He returned in his son's body. Tissue compatibility made things easier. Yet your phenotype, thanks to the chip, is unique. Arasaka cannot provide a suitable body at this time.
Now you could either accept the contract and possibly be cured one day, or live your last 6 months free on Earth, having to live with what you've done by betraying Johnny and helping Arasaka. This time I chose to go back to Earth, and the best part about this is that V sings Never Fade Away by the Johnny Silverhand.
A thing of beauty will never fade away. I see your eyes and know you see me. You're like a ghost, how you're everywhere.
And the end credit messages you get are basically the same as when you do that mission in space for Blue Eyes, except Hanako calls this time. So I load back once again, and this time sign the contract and give myself to Arasaka to be put into Mikoshi and maybe, possibly be put into another body one day. But probably not, because I don't know why they would reanimate V, who is the most dangerous Arasaka-hating merc to ever live. There's also something crazy that I missed, because if you send Jackie's body to Vic in the beginning of the game and make certain choices in the Arasaka ending, you could actually talk to Jackie's engram, but he's all fucky.
Mano.
Jackie!
Gonna be up to our necks in juicy contracts, brother. I can feel it.
Where are we? Is it a dream?
It'll be all right, V. You'll see.
Arasaka do this? Hit you with Soul Killer. How's that even possible? You died.
Misty knew. Misty always knows.
Jackie, amigo, you really got no idea who I am?
Mano.
Goodbye, old friend. Afterlife. See you there.
That's another reason that the contract ending is shady, because even if they do give you a new body, who knows how much of you'll actually be. Anyway, one more ending, and from my understanding, this is a lot of people's favorite one. So I load back, and this time I tell Johnny that I'm gonna call Panam, and he is surprisingly upset with that decision as well. So I tell Panam that I need a way to get into Arasaka Tower, and she said that she's gonna come over to pick me up. And once again, Misty reads my fortune, but unlike the Arasaka ending, it's much more promising this time. Panam takes me to the camp, and we go over the plan with her and Saul. And basically the opposite of Rogue's plan, who wanted to go by helicopter, they want to dig a tunnel underneath the building. After that, Saul gives a speech and tells everybody that I'm gonna be an official Aldecado, and they give me one of their jackets. Which is when I realized that I took all of my clothes off to get into that ice bath to talk to Alt, so I just did that entire speech with my cock out. Anyway, I talk to everybody for the final time, have a drink with Mitch, and he tells me that some people in the camp think they should make Panam the new leader. together. Doesn't take too long for shit to go sideways, as they almost immediately start dropping missiles on us left and right and nearly destroy the basilisk. We take out a bunch more people, and then it almost gets destroyed again, so I have to defend Mitch while he gets the drill ready and Panam fixes it. And there's actually a lot of enemies to fight, so it's pretty tough. We drill through the tunnel and talk about how a couple guys have already died during the mission, which is no bueno, and Mitch basically decides to go on a side run to save the other members. And you actually have the choice to abandon the mission at this point, but I ain't doing that. We fire up the drill and everything starts falling apart, and it almost seems like Panam died for a second, but she's alright. We make our way through the building, killing all kinds of people, and eventually make it to the end where, would you believe me if I told you that Atom Smasher shows up? And would you believe me if I told you that he squishes Saul's head like a grape right in front of me? So I defeat him once again, shoot him in the face with Johnny's gun, and go into Mikoshi for the final time to do the whole shebang and choose to keep my body and wake up in the Badlands. Me and Panam talk and discuss how we're going to go to Arizona together, and Panam is going to use all of her contacts to try to help find me a cure. I get one last view of the city, and we ride off into the sunset for a somewhat hopeful future. Oh, and Mitch is still alive. We cross the border together, Arizona bound, and it's somehow nighttime on the other end of this tunnel, and we get the final cutscene and the credits roll.
Well?
It's perfect. All great, Panam. We're going home.
I like that one as well, but it's kind of disappointing that most of your choices throughout the game don't really have an effect on the endings besides some of the calls that you get during the credits, and the one secret ending that you have to set up beforehand, but overall I was pretty satisfied with the variety of endings and think they all made sense. It just kind of sucks that most of your choices don't really matter except the very last choice that you make in the end, which determines which ending you're gonna get. Personally, my favorite one was the solo run with Johnny and keeping your body, because V and Jackie's main goal at the beginning of the game was to become a legend of Night City, and that's the only ending where that actually happens. Plus, there is a glimmer of hope that Mr. Blue Eyes will be able to cure V if he doesn't die in that final mission. And although the DLC ending where you go into a coma for 2 years is pretty sad, I don't really mind that one all that much because that's pretty much the only ending where V is 100% cured. And I'm sure he has tons of money and resources to live a good life, and it's not like he needed those implants to be a badass, because that's pretty much how you were at the beginning of the game, and he handled himself just fine. And yeah, most of his friends moved on with their lives, but that's just something that happens in life whether you go into a 2-year coma or not. And I know Cyberpunk isn't always about getting a 100% happy ending, but man, I would just love one ending where you're able to keep Johnny's engram in another body or something so you could both live. But oh well. Now I just need to clean up a few achievements that I didn't manage to get during my journey, and there's about 8 or 9 of them left. The first one I decided to do was buy every car in the game, which I am unable to do at the moment because you need to do more car stealing jobs for El Captain to unlock the rest. So I do a few more jobs, and eventually he calls me for a special job and tells me to come meet up with him, and he's fighting with that cop that we met earlier when we started his quest. He tells me that we're going to be stealing a medical truck off of Arasaka's docks for the poor kids in Domingo. He also tells me how bad the water was when he was a kid and how it made everybody sick, which is why he needs to get these meds. So I meet up with him and a man named Daniels at the dock who just acts like a big fat cock the whole time. I sneak into the facility, murder a bunch of people, grab the truck, and head out. On the way out, Daniels gets caught and you have the option to save him or not, but I didn't even think twice about leaving his ass behind because 1, he was a huge dickhead, and 2, he told me to leave himself, so I left. I dropped the truck off, Captain tells me that Daniels is dead, which I will shed no tears for, and he gives me this car that he has. Tragically, that doesn't mean that I unlock the rest of the cars to be able to buy, so it's back to the grind for however many more I need to do to unlock the rest of the cars. But after doing about 4 or 5 of them, I thought, wait wait a minute, this achievement was probably here before the DLC even came out. So that means that the DLC cars, which are the ones that I need to unlock, probably don't count. And I was correct, and after spending about $1.5 million on the rest of the cars, I got the achievement. Next one, I just need to kill 3 enemies at once by detonating somebody's grenade with a quick hack. So I got a perk that makes my quick hacks do more explosive damage, found these 3 unsuspecting gentlemen, and exploded them all over the place. The next one I needed was to unlock every single fast travel point, which is probably my least favorite one to get because it's really hard to know which ones you don't have yet, and you just have to compare a full list to your map and just try to pinpoint which ones you don't have. And there is over 150 of them. Luckily, I only needed like 5 or 6 of them, but it still took me like an hour to find those ones. Next one, you just need to shoot a grenade out of the air with a revolver, and thanks to Reddit, I found a group of goons fighting some police and shot the grenade with the help of a perk that makes it easier to do exactly that. The next one, you just need to kill 3 bosses from the increased criminal activity zones in Dogtown, which I surprisingly don't think I've ever done any of these because when I saw them on the map, I figured they were just the airdrop points, so I never went over there. And I actually regret not doing these earlier because these basically act as the Cyberpsychos from the main game, even though that's not what they are, but you basically go into an enemy base, just chock full of enemies, and end up having to fight a boss at the end of it. And I even got some iconic weapons out of it. And one of the bosses was surprisingly a drone, which I think is the first non-humanoid boss I have ever faced in this game. But it was pretty easy. And upon killing the drone, I get the trophy and moved on to the next one, which is to craft 3 legendary weapons, which I only needed 1 left, so that was easy. Then I needed to unlock every perk in the relic skill tree, which I only needed 1 more since conveniently there was a point at each one of the criminal activities that I just did. I looked up a list of where they were, and I foolishly went backwards on the list, thinking I probably got the first one since it's in the beginning Dogtown area when you first enter. But after going entirely backwards on the list, it did turn out to be the very first one, so that's on me. Next thing I need to do is kill 2 enemies at the same time with a superhero landing, which I had no idea how to do, but upon looking it up, I found out that you need to buy this implant and equip a melee weapon, hop over these people and smash them. And since I'm on some melee shit right now, I decided to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because now I need to get 100 melee kills and I need to become Dogtown's most wanted, which just means to get 5 stars in Dogtown. So I decided to equip a blade and put on all the blade perks I could and just start slicing away at people. Only took a couple minutes to get 5 stars, but it probably took another 15 or so to finally kill 100 people. Definitely one of the more fun achievements I've had to get so far, especially since I haven't done like any melee in this game, so it was basically my chance to try it out. Next one I need is to revive from a second heart implant and then kill the person who killed me within 3 seconds. So I headed out to do that, and it only took me like 1 minute. That one was pretty easy. And the last 2 I need is to do every gig and every NCPD mission in the city center and Pacifica, which I thought I did earlier, but apparently I did miss one in each of the locations. So I did the city center one real quick, and then I did the Pacifica one real quick. And that is 100% of the achievements in Cyberpunk 2077. It took me well over 100 hours, but I can honestly say that I enjoyed almost every minute of it. Now, do I think that Cyberpunk 2077 is worth playing in 2025, 5 years after it came out? Absolutely. This is easily going in my top 10 list of favorite games. Everything from the story to the graphics to the writing, the quests, the characters, and combat is all just really fucking good. The closest thing that I feel like I can compare to this style of game is something like Starfield or Fallout 4. And I love Fallout 4, but I feel like Cyberpunk just does so much stuff so much better, especially the writing and combat. That's not to say that I think it does everything better, because one of my complaints about Cyberpunk that I think a Bethesda game does better is exploration. Because in a Fallout game, I could always just wander in any random direction and see some broken down building or a cave or a vault or something and just say, I wonder what's in there. But in Cyberpunk, I don't ever really get that same feeling, because most of the world is filled with giant skyscrapers and buildings that you can't actually enter, and there's no real reason to talk to any of the NPCs. Especially since 90% of the quests are already marked on your map, so there's no reason to just walk around and explore and talk to people. I did kind of get that feeling in the Badlands sometimes, like when I found the Batman car and stuff, but it was pretty rare for something like that to happen. So that's definitely something I would like to see improved improved in the sequel, along with things like maybe a higher fall distance before taking damage so I don't shatter my ankles every time I fall a few feet, or at least an implant that allows that, which is kind of mind-blowing that there isn't one already. Like, actually, in one of the endings, you literally get hover boots that activate before you hit the ground so you don't take any damage, but as far as I know, that's the only time you could ever use those. Also, better car and weapon customization. Maybe something like Fallout 4's weapon customization, so that would also make all the junk in the game actually useful. And definitely some more impactful choices with consequences later down the line that don't just affect that specific quest that you're doing. And maybe more enemy variety, because it feels like there's like 3 enemies in this game. Guys with guns, guys with melee weapons, and netrunners who will try to hack you. And drones, can't forget the drones. Also, faction quest lines would be cool, since there's tons of different gangs and groups in Night City, but you can't actually do any quests for them or work with them in any way. You could even increase replayability by making it so if you do too many quests for one gang, then the other gangs won't let you join them anymore since you're an op now. And maybe companions, or at least a dog. But thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you somehow made it all the way to the end of this video, and let me know what other games you'd want to see me cover. I'm thinking about doing Bully next, since I never got a chance to play that as a kid, and everybody seems to love that game, so I'd like to see if it holds up myself. Like and subscribe and do all that jazz if you think I deserve it, and have a great rest of your day. Peace.